bit viral on Twitter, OG, with your Emmanuel Quickly stuff.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it's good. It's good. It's good. Raptor fans are loving hearing all this stuff about Emmanuel Quickly.
I just think that, and a lot of people don't talk about it, that we have a lot of teams in the league who have good developmental systems, and I think that Toronto, their developmental system gets thrown by the wayside because, like, after Nick Nurse left, and
it's been pretty bad for a while.
But they've always been good at developing young players. I mean, I feel like every team has that. Even when you got championship teams, when they have that lull in between where, you know, they kind of fall off a little bit. That doesn't negate that they're still a championship caliber organization. And I feel the same way about what's going on up in Toronto. The fact that they actually have a plan. I thought that Toronto made a mistake on Scotty Barnes initially because I thought Suggs was your guy. But as I watched Scotty Barnes, I'm thinking, you know what? I think you may have your guy for the future right here. And then when you bag RJ Barrett, I'm really liking that combination. I still think that you need to get a big guy, but then bagging Emmanuel Quigley, I just think he's perfect for what you guys are doing. I do.
For sure. I agree.
I like everything Toronto got going on in terms of their young prospects.
We're definitely going to get into them in Summer League talk for sure.
Yeah.
Good Summer League squad.
You guys do?
What?
You guys do?
You guys have a good Summer League team.
Yeah, I think we got a good Summer League team.
Okay. Yeah, we're definitely going to try to deep dive into all the Summer League rosters today. I definitely want to hear you guys' guys that you're very high on going into Summer League, some people that need to have a good Summer League as well, and then just some of the more intriguing rosters. Obviously, you know, Summer League, it's a good mix of, you got the young prospects, the rookies and stuff like that. Then you got guys that are second-year guys that maybe shouldn't be there. And then you obviously got G League guys, too, that are fighting to get into the league. So it's a good combination of both.
Mars, I don't like what
I sound good right now?
Yeah, you hot. You definitely hot, Ron.
Okay.
You still L host, though, but you sound good.
As long as I sound good and look good.
Mars, I don't like what I'm seeing from Keyonte George. And the reason why I don't like what I'm seeing from him is because when you are in the summer, I think Ox can appreciate this as a player. When you're in the summer, my job is to improve my game, right? My job is to get better. And practicing good habits makes my game better. I feel like Keyonte George, he takes a lot of shots that he's not going to take with the Jazz later on this season. And he takes a lot of bad shots. So practicing that isn't helping his game, and it's not going to help them. So I think it makes him, I don't like what I'm seeing from him. I don't.
I watched the first game where they played the Grizz. I didn't like that. I didn't like what he was doing in that game. The Philly game, I think he was better against Philly. It seems like he's making a conscious effort to be aggressive, which is
fine. Which is fine.
But some of the shots, yeah. But I think it was better against Philly. But Philly are also playing zone for the whole of Summer League, which I don't like. So there's something take up with that what you want. But I think when you're a player like Keyonte, Gigi Jackson to a lesser degree, I think they just view Summer League as a way to be a number one guy. Like, that's how I'm assuming they're viewing it. Because Gigi's doing similar things in terms of how he's approaching Summer League. I don't think it's effective for what his role is going to be next season. But Keyonte came in to be a scorer. He wasn't very efficient at Baylor, but he came in to be a scorer. That's what he was projected as. Right. And then the Jazz made him like a combo point guard thing this year, which was actually interesting because he showed some solid playmaking flashes. But he's still a scorer at heart, and he wants to score the basketball. And if he can be efficient, maybe you live with some of the shots he takes, because the Jazz offense, in terms of creators, I don't know if Sexton and Jordan Clarkson are going to be on the team long term, and Lowry's more of a play finisher. Having another creator isn't a bad thing if he can show that he can do that at a high level. So maybe Summer League is the place for him to get reps for that. It just depends on what his role is next season, and I'm not sure what it will be, and I think it depends on what their roster looks like. I'm assuming they're going to get off Jordan Clarkson in them, so I don't know.
Chill, I'm surprised you're saying this right now, because Keyonte, like, as moving forward, guard-wise, he got the key to the franchise.
That part I won't argue.
I'm not saying he's the face of the franchise, but guard-wise, he has. even next year.
Right.
He is going to be the person who has the ball in his hands. And he had a bad first game for sure. Well, he didn't. He was bad efficient wise. He
was on his James Harden. He was getting to that line. Yeah.
He was getting to went 17 for 18 from the stripe too.
Right.
But the game against Philly
ever.
Yeah, it wasn't appealing.
But he turned it back around. The game against Philly, you couldn't ask for more from him. He scored 31 points. He went 9 for 15 from the field. 31 on 9 for 15 from the field is amazing. 11
they played zone the whole game. Like Philly, that doesn't count. I'm sorry, that doesn't mean anything in the landscape of the NBA. No, I agree. Like it's good for him to play well, but that's not proof is going to translate to the NBA. No team is playing zone for 40 minutes in the NBA, Ron. Like,
and they played zone.
Whatever Philly's doing, I don't know why they've run zone for every second of summer league. I don't know why they've done it. But Keyonte George playing well against a zone for 40 minutes. Good on you, but like that doesn't show anything of how it's going to work in the regular season. Like,
I think you're gonna run up on some teams that do play zone for a lot of games. I mean, especially in the Western Conference. Oklahoma City plays zone. Dallas does everything that they can to protect Luka, and they play a lot of zone. Sure, I can get that. I can get with that. But Keyonte George reminds me more of a downhill type of scorer. He's got a pretty good pull-up game, which I do like that. But I feel like the habits that you practice in the summertime, that translates over to the season. And I don't like the fact that his shot selection, I don't want that to move over into the regular season where he's now taking bad shots. Because to your point, Ron, he does have the keys to the city. And if he's doing stuff like that, then we're going to move over to the regular season where he's taking bad shots and he's getting his team out of rhythm and they're not making advancements and they're not getting better because of what he's doing in the summertime. That's why I feel like what I'm seeing from him, I don't like it early.
I don't take anything too serious in summer league, to be honest. Like I'm seeing teams just saying, go out and play this role. It's not necessarily indicative of the role you're going to play with the regular team. Like you look at Keon Ellis, he scored 31 points for Sacramento. I don't think he's ever going to score 31 points for Sacramento unless like DeMar and De'Aaron Fox are taking the night off. So it's like you're expanding the role. You're seeing what can be developed. It's like when the guys go to pro-ams, right? We saw Malachi Flynn drop 60, 70 points in a pro-am game. I mean, in fairness, he also scored 50-something points he scored 50 points in an NBA game too. But anyways, my point is that it was that for Detroit, right? So, I mean, it's basically like a pro-am. It's just a drive-by shooting on Detroit Pistons. But my point is, I wouldn't take it too seriously. Guys try to work on different things. Coaches want to see different things from someone, and maybe someone wants to see a little bit more scoring punch. Honestly, I was a big Keyonte hater at Baylor. I did not want the Raptors to draft him at 13. They didn't. They drafted Grady Dick. But he surprised me last year. I didn't see a lot of that point guard stuff from him at Baylor. He drove into traffic a lot. I didn't think he had the athletic burst. I didn't think he had the dynamicism. I didn't think he had the athleticism to really be that type of player. And I was like, man, he's going to be stuck between a rock and a hard place. But, man, it's just hard work with him. And, take the reps, take the shots, keep the confidence up, go for your 7 for 20. But it's impressive how he gets to the line. And, eventually the stuff that he's doing, in summer league with the reps, with the physical, with the, studying the tape and whatever, maybe 3 years down the line, he could, in the very brightest outcome for the Utah Jazz, become that type of player for them. He's not going to do it next year, but I don't hold someone's shot selection against them in summer league.
I think we've seen flashes of this from Keyonte George last year. Like, this is not just something out of the blue. We've seen these flashes in certain games where you have these kind of big outbreak games. We saw that he had 8 or 9 threes that one particular game too. So we've seen it before, and I think now we're just kind of seeing it again. Summer league, you could say he has more of the team, doesn't have to share the ball as much as players do during the regular season. So he's been given the opportunity to kind of have more, I guess, a high usage rate, which is the thing. He just reminded me of Kevin Martin. For some reason, I see a bit of Kevin Martin in him, scoring wise, the way he gets to the rim. His jump shot wise, that's definitely what I see. So do I think he could be a kind of a consistent, maybe 15-point guy for Utah? Maybe this year. Would be shocked if he gives you 12 to 15 for sure this year. So that's kind of what I expect from him. But then when the nights when like Lauri Markkanen is out or some of the key guys are out, I could definitely see him giving you 25 plus.
And he gave them 12 to 15 last year.
Did he?
He did.
Yeah. Especially during the end of the season, Keyonte really exploded. He came on the scene for him.
True. Maybe it might be 18 to 20 then. He gave you 12 to 15 last year.
Yeah, it depends on role and usage and a bunch of things. And his shot selection was erratic last year. Like it was erratic at Baylor. He has an erratic shot selection. So ideally, you get more efficiency. But I think it's easier for most people to scale down than it is to scale up. I'd rather have someone who's maybe too aggressive as a scorer than someone who's not aggressive enough. That's why I'd prefer. So I think you can scale Keyonte back a little bit. I'd rather have someone who's confident to shoot if they go under a pick and roll than someone who's reluctant. So I'll live with some of the Keyonte shot selection, especially while Utah isn't competing for the playoffs and those things. But ideally, it will tighten up. But he's like 20, so
volume is super underrated. Volume is super underrated. Like if you can generate high volume possessions in the pick and roll, high volume shot attempts above the break, even if you're not super efficient at it. Like I'll take a guy who takes 10 above the break threes at 36% over a guy who hits 40%, but he takes 2 a game. You know what I mean? Because that volume is like that's the staggering factor of like overall like load creation. These things have to matter. So Keyonte George has got that part figured out. There's no issue with loading him up to 32% usage. He'll take 40% usage if you give it to him. He is not shy. He needs to get a lot better to warrant that level of usage. So that's what Summer League is for, is to make him better.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. We got a super chat yesterday. Didn't really get to dive into it in its entirety, but my man San G's sent it through it again today, so we for sure gonna dive into this. It's a good one. He said, Ron, show my question faster today. I got you, my man. He said, rank these big man peaks 1 through 8. We got Tim Duncan. We got Shaquille O'Neal. We got Anthony Davis. We got Dirk Nowitzki. We got the Joker. We got the process. We got the big ticket, and we got the Greek freak. These 8 big men peaks. Can we first start by defining what a peak is?
So I've done peak as 1 to 3 years. That's what usually I do. Preferably the 3-year mark. I usually give 3 years, kind of a peak thing. You know, it seems like the right level. 3 years, 5 seems a little much, but I get it. 1 seems a little too short. So 3 is my number. I don't know what you guys think.
So Anthony Davis showed up. Anthony Davis showed up in 12, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so he showed up in 12. Anthony Davis's peak seasons. I got from maybe 17 to 20. I'm thinking 17, maybe 16 to 20. I think those were his peak years. Were those peak seasons better than from 98 to 2003 Shaq? No.
Shaq is one.
Shaq is number one.
Yeah, so it's consensus. So it's consensus. So it's consensus that Shaq is number one.
Yeah.
Duncan. Duncan.
Get on with that.
Now Duncan got it. Now we talking about Duncan in a different way. The reason why I'm saying that is because Duncan switched positions. Because Duncan went from the 4 to the 5, and he was elite at the 5. He still was making all league defensive teams at the 5. Like they still was winning championships with him at the 5. Now him at the 4, those were probably his best seasons.
Yeah, his offensive game was probably better.
What was Duncan's peak seasons at the 4? I'm gonna go with from 99 to about 2005. I think those are his peak seasons.
So long years.
Was
I want to get 03 in there, so it just depends on what.
03 is in the 05. Duncan isn't as good as 03 Duncan.
Yeah,
so let's say 2000 to 2003 for Tim Duncan. Let's choose that 3 years.
I'm cool with that.
Do we factor in health when we do these peaks?
No. Unless you guys want to say, well, because it's them at their peak.
But what if they got hurt during those seasons? Like Giannis is in his peak, I'd argue like the last 3 years, but he's been hurt in the playoffs for the last 2 years. So does that hurt his peak?
Well, now let me ask you this,
I think it does. I think it has to hurt his peak a little bit more.
And not only that, Ox, are these his peak seasons? Like when did Giannis's peak start? Giannis showed up in 13. When did his peak start?
But
I think his prime started in like 18 or 19. I think his peak started in 2020.
I think his prime started in 17. I think
so what we doing for Giannis? 19, 20, 21?
I'm thinking 18. I'm thinking
if I'm throwing in 19 in there, respectfully, he's going down the list. Respectfully.
Yeah, for me, it's the year he won the championship, and probably these more recent years too.
So
Yeah.
20,
Could
21,
possibly start the
22?
year before.
I could go
Yep.
2021, 22. Yeah, I could do that.
Okay, I could get
Those
that.
are the
I could
only
go
years
with
he
that.
was healthy in the playoffs.
It still puts him at number 5, respectfully. But
I was gonna say I don't even know. I got 02, 04 KG as my 2. Duncan
KG's number 2 on my list too.
Yeah, KG's number 2 on my list. Duncan's 3rd on my list for peak.
Same with me. Same with me.
KG had a 4-year stretch. KG had a 4-year stretch. Now, this may sound like it's not a lot today, but KG had a 4-year stretch. We went 23-12. That doesn't sound like a lot today.
With amazing defense.
He was a first-team All-League defender.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a lot today, but in 2002, in a big man league, going 4 straight years at the 4 spot at 23-12, playing elite defense. Who else was doing that? Duncan was doing that. Shaq was doing that. That's it. Like Rasheed Wallace, was Chris Webber doing that?
Elite
With
defense.
the
elite defense. Webber wasn't doing that. Sheed wasn't doing that. And by the way, this was a power forward era. Dirk wasn't doing that.
The thing about it is the numbers do Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett absolutely no justice. Like if we were just to look at the stat sheet, you guys have no idea how good Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett was. The numbers do it no justice.
Right. That's why these kids in the chat are saying what they're saying. But we know the truth.
Right.
Yeah, I hear a lot of Giannis is better than KG. That bothers me. But I think KG, I'm not going to say he played in the wrong era, but I think KG's game traveled better from the 2000s than damn near anyone who played in the 2000s. In terms of what he was able to do defensively, in terms of his jump shooting ability. He wasn't that physical, imposing interior force like a Shaq or a Duncan. He was more on the outside, versatility, passing, processing, versatility on defense in terms of switching and just scheming. Mm-hmm. That stuff looks like it would travel to this game and the 2020s a lot more seamlessly than other guys. So I have KG probably number 2, but there might be a hint of bias of how I just feel his game would travel to today. Whereas maybe Tim Duncan was more effective in the 2000s.
I have it too.
But KG, I just feel more comfortable with him in a variety of different roles. But I don't know. I think KG at his best is better than Duncan at his best. That's where I'm at with it. But I think that's where
you and I differ, Moss, because I think Duncan at his best was better from a defensive stance. Don't get me wrong. I think KG was an elite rebounder, and if we're looking at the numbers, sure. I mean, I think KG he led the league in rebounding 4 straight years, but during his peak, he was a glass cleaner. When was Duncan the glass cleaner? Duncan was the glass cleaner on, I feel like, inferior teams, not from KG, but inferior teams that were winning. If you look at the talent level that he had and what he had to do as a defender, making up for guys like Avery Johnson, making up for older guys like David Robinson. I got to clean glass more. I got to rim protect more. I do have to play on the perimeter. Even though it's a big man era, I do have to play on the perimeter because I got to go out on the wing and I got to guard Chris Webber. I got to go out on the wing and I got to guard Rasheed Wallace. I got to go out on the wing and I got to guard Antonio McDyess. And not only do I have to deal with these guys, I also have to score too. And in the process of me doing that, I'm carrying my team deep into the playoffs. Duncan, as a defender, his ability to close out, not only his ability to close out, his ability to protect the rim without fouling. I think that's the edge that I give him over KG during this time.
The physicality is definitely a big edge for Duncan. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, KG struggled to guard Shaq, so he's not that good. Like,
give me a break.
But Duncan did a better job against Shaq than damn near anyone probably could have. Like, he was very, very strong, even though he was a slighter frame than Shaq obviously was, but he was very strong. And that's why he was also so good in the post, because he would back you down and get 4 feet from the rim and then do his little sweeping right-handed hooks.
Mars, real quick, I want you to keep going too, Mars, but would it be also because Duncan put Shaq on the defense? Would that also have a lot to do with him doing a better job against Shaq? Because there weren't many guys back then who could put Shaq on the defense like Duncan could.
In terms of make Shaq work?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a part of it. I also think a part of it is having David Robinson there next to you. But I just think Tim Duncan's physical imposition gets underrated because the most physically imposing player probably ever was in the era next to him. So Duncan didn't look like an outlier because the outlier among outliers is there next to you. It's like in some regard, Clay and Damian Lillard get underrated as shooters because they're in the era of Steph Curry. It's like if Steph wasn't there, you'd be calling Dame the best thing you've ever seen. But Steph's there, you become kind of numb to what Dame is doing. I think that's similar with Duncan's physicality. I can understand picking Duncan over KG because his scoring was just more reliable, especially in the postseason, because he didn't rely on a tough array of just mid-range pull-ups. Like KG lived from like that 16 to 20 foot range. And like just naturally that's less efficient than what Tim Duncan's generating.
The thing about Tim Duncan is, like how you said a minute ago, his strength I think is extremely underrated. Tim Duncan was very strong. Like just that quick spin move on the block when you're getting pushed in your back, to be able to spin off that. Like Tim Duncan did. I mean, obviously he had a drop step, but that wasn't a drop step. You know what I'm saying? That was a quick spin off the body. Right. And to do that and be that strong and to stay on balance, I don't know if you understand how strong your base and your core have to be. Tim Duncan was extremely strong. Like, and you can see it. You can see it in his game. If you know,
I'm convincing myself to put Tim Duncan number 2 as I talk.
I'm about to stop talking because I got KG at 2 and I want to.
Yeah, like I'm convincing myself.
That's what I'm saying. Because my next question to Ox. That was my next question to Ox. Ox, and I know you're a KG guy. I need you to take your KG fan hat off, and I need you to put your basketball analyst hat on.
Well, I'm also a Tim Duncan guy too.
That's what I'm talking about. And I need you to take your fan hat off, and I need you to put your analyst hat on. What's the edge that you giving KG over Duncan at that point? And we're talking about peaks. We ain't talking about all time. We're talking about a 3-4 year span. Why was KG ahead of Duncan, and how much was it?
Chill. He's not. Tim Duncan should be number 2. KG should be number 3.
Okay, hold up.
But the thing about it though, Chill, I think we can talk about some things that aren't measurable. KG's presence alone on the defensive end was a little bit more like just knowing KG's out there. You know what I'm saying? His presence, what y'all call it, his aura, if you will. You know what I'm saying? If you will. But KG's ability on the perimeter too. Like KG's ability to get it and go off the glass on the rebound. So in transition, KG with the ball, KG running the floor without the ball, KG playing perimeter defense, KG able to handle the ball on the perimeter are things that are, if you ask me, are far superior to Tim Duncan's ability. Although Tim Duncan is passing. Oh, I used to watch KG. I used to watch KG dropping that behind the back pass off the baseline to Michael Olakandi. Like, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, good. That's a good call too there, gentlemen. His passing. That 2-3 spot is really hard for me.
I don't think we give Duncan enough credit for his ability in transition to take the ball off the glass and go, because that wasn't going on during that time. Like the big man gave the ball up and he filled the lanes. He was either running from rim to rim or he was running on the wing. You saw the big fella put his head down and run. That's primarily what he was doing. Duncan would grab the ball off the glass and go with it. Now he wasn't throwing the ball between his legs and behind his back like you see guys today. But I think that Duncan was a lot more skilled than we give him credit for in transition. A lot.
He do a little crossover here and there.
Yes.
But back when Duncan was like actually a really good athlete. No, he's not KG. Right. KG was a 3 playing the 4 in terms of movement and agility and those things. And also in why he played.
He would be a 3 today, as a matter of fact, to be honest with you.
He'd probably be a 5 today, but that just says a lot about him.
He would play the 5, but he could play the 3, 4, and the 5.
Yeah.
KG played today. 100%.
I got KG, but Duncan and KG. I'd like if someone says Duncan, I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, you lost your mind. I'm flip flopping, but I'm going with KG.
The 4th spot though. The 4th spot.
Right quick, Jalen. So Mars, Ox, Chill, and Jalen. You guys all have Shaq at 1. Yeah. I think everybody has Shaq at 1, and then it flip flops between Tim Duncan.
I got Duncan.
We don't.
Chill has Duncan.
I got Duncan at 2.
I have KG. Jalen has KG, and Ox I think has Duncan.
I think Ron's gonna kick me off the show when he hears my list.
Can I?
He's gonna say I got Arvidas Sabonis at 1.
Oh,
I do have Arvidas Sabonis at 1.
This is crazy.
Yeah, Arvidas. Hey, Pin, I need your top 3 right now. Just 3.
You just want a teaser? You don't want the whole thing? You just want the teaser?
Yeah. We'll get into it.
Right.
We got time.
All right. I'm gonna go Jokic number 1.
Joker at the 1.
Oh man.
Shaq number 2.
Giannis
at the 3. And I'm gonna tell you right now, my favorite player on this list is Tim Duncan. That's my favorite player, and I got him at 4.
Being better in your favorite player is not the same thing.
No.
That's not the same thing.
I disagree with Jokic, but I can understand the rationale. Giannis over Duncan. Why?
Okay. So in terms of peak, right? The way Jalen described it, and I think the way we've all been saying it, is top 3 years, right?
Excuse me.
3-year Giannis is insanity. The career of Tim Duncan and the longevity is where I say the metamorphosis and how he molded himself from first option to second option, power forward, center, shooting, getting down in the low post. Like, Tim Duncan's career is the best career on this list to me.
Sure.
It's better than Shaq's career because of longevity.
Mm-hmm.
I also consider portability between eras, right? I want to think about Nikola Jokic in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100. You know, I'm not just saying you get to, you know, live in the era that you played in. I'm porting you out of that era and I'm putting you in different eras and saying, what kind of a problem are you going to be in the 90s? Could you even hang in the 90s? Could you hang in the 2000s? Could Shaq hang today? Now you would say, oh, of course, Rob. He could hang, Penn. He could hang today. But I'm saying
destroyed the 90s. He would have.
I think Jokic and Giannis would have done really, really well in the 90s. I think both these guys would have been big problems in the 90s, right?
Is that peak Jokic, talk? Oh, is this peak talk?
Oh, it's
portability talk.
Well, he's saying them
look,
at their best.
Jokic's peak speaks for itself. He has 3 MVPs, and he's getting those MVPs at literally the peak. I want to say right now, I don't know if y'all disagree or agree. This is the most talented the league has ever been. Talent, just talent. I'm not saying this is the best it's ever been.
Players,
I'm talking about pop.
I don't know
I'm
if
just
Jokic
saying
get those MVPs in the 2000s though.
I think
with what he was doing,
a lot of MVPs in the 2000s, bro.
It depends on freedom. It depends on how much restriction you put on a guy with Jokic's skill set in the 2000s. I don't know.
Look, a lot of
he might get Steve Nash's MVPs, but
bro, I think a lot of what Jokic does not do well defensively, he wouldn't even be asked to do in the 90s. How many bigs is he coming out? How many pick and rolls is he defending? How many times is he having to raise up past the level of the screen? How much pick and roll are we running today? How many guards are launching from 3? Look at how much bigger the court is right today than it was in the 90s. If you put Jokic in the 90s,
also other defense he has to play though in the 90s. He might not have to play
he's not a bad post defender. This is the argument that I don't get with Jokic, right? He's not a bad post defender. It's just the same argument as Karl Anthony Towns.
I'm saying him having to deal with even like an Alonzo Mourning, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson.
Patrick Ewing is giving him the business. Like let's stop. Bro, he might not be a bad post defender, but he's so what? He's holding Patrick. Patrick Ewing's having a bad night against Jokic. Patrick Ewing's coming in the game like, God damn, I got to deal with this motherfucker Jokic. Man.
Okay.
Okay. No, on offensive
fair point.
Defensively, he's going to be mad. Offensively, he's going to be like, I'm about to get mine too.
Okay. You know on the other end, Patrick Ewing got to guard Nikola Jokic, right?
No, we know that. We don't even got to get
what? But Pat
get in there.
Pat guards him better than he guards Pat.
I watched a worse player than Nikola Jokic and Arvydas Sabonis come with basically no legs, no ankles, no knees, and be one of the top 7 centers in the league when he was way past his prime. Talk to anybody who watched Arvydas Sabonis in the 80s, crazy, different player. But in the 90s, really different equation. He was mobile, like he was not very mobile at that point. He was slow, and he was still a very, very good player for the Blazers, right? He was a starting center. He was easily one of the top 8 centers in the league, in my opinion, at the height of when the big man position was at its best. Everything he was doing was stretching the defense. He was shooting from the free throw line. He was shooting 22 feet, and he was always open because bigs don't guard out that way. So I'm saying you put Jokic right now, you just poured him into the 90s. He's a problem, man. He's a big problem in the 90s. So I like him there. And, you know, when I go down the list, it's Duncan next after Giannis, then KG. I'm really torn between KG and Duncan. Again, Duncan peak, KG peak is, you can make an argument KG over Duncan for sure. But the career, Duncan wins. Then I got Dirk, then I got Embiid, then I got AD. I don't think anyone's got AD higher than 8. I don't know. Maybe someone really hates
AD last for everybody.
I mean, look.
For me, don't disrespect my guy AD.
I don't think he's last.
He's just a step below everyone.
Yeah.
We not doing that.
Who's he ahead of? He's not last.
Hey, I didn't say he's ahead of anyone, but I want to be like, we can have a discussion here ahead of someone. That's why I want to.
You can have a discussion.
I don't like that. It's just like,
AD
88. Who's the top 7? Nah, AD has a conversation against 7. Whoever 7 is.
Mars, all I'm saying is the way Shaq should be number 1 on this list.
Nah,
AD should be number 8 on this list. Respectfully,
I can make the case.
Ron, do you value defense? AD versus Dirk.
I can make the case for Anthony
really
Davis.
value defense.
Wait, who am I forgetting? I only got 7 people. It's only 7, right?
No, it's
Shaq,
8.
Shaq, Duncan, KG,
I forgot about Joel.
Giannis,
My bad. I forgot
Joel, AD, and Dirk. Yeah.
Ron, we could talk Joel and AD.
Okay, first of all,
I can make the case for AD over.
I was about to say, Ron, do you remember Anthony Davis, like the 2017, 2018 Davis, the 2016, 2017 Anthony Davis, the 2019, 2020 Anthony Davis? You remember that dude?
I remember him, but
all of these dudes have been the best player in the league.
Never moved me the way Tim Duncan moved me.
Well, that's not AD peaked at the time where LeBron and Steph were around.
I'm not okay. And Kobe was in the league. All of these guys were in their peaks for the most part.
Yeah, but Penn says AD was never the best in the league, and I'm just saying.
Okay.
That's what I'm addressing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Penn. Yeah. Even with that being said, a majority of these guys were in the league and all fighting for the best position. And it was at times where Shaq was the best. It was a time where Duncan was the best. It was a time where KG was the best. It was definitely a time where Kobe was the best. So I mean that doesn't necessarily hold too much weight. But what I do want to say is AD never moved me the way Dirk moved me.
I think you was wrong. That's cool.
It was a moment in time. It was some years in there where you were like, yo, Dirk is.
When did Giannis pass AD?
2021 when AD got hurt.
That's what I was thinking. Because
up until that 2020, it was a conversation.
And this was a back-to-back league MVP Giannis, and it was a serious conversation between these guys because the defense was not that far off. The defense was right there. Anthony Davis is a bucket getter. Anthony Davis had a better mid-range game. Anthony Davis, I'm not going to go as far as say he was a better rebounder than Giannis, but he was just as good a rebounder as Giannis.
It's not the 90s, Ron. We can't eat donuts for breakfast no more, bro.
Yeah, Ron just.
It gotta be. So we can eat donuts for breakfast in the 90s?
My bad, chill. I'm just concerned with my brother's health. My bad, chill. Go ahead.
You know what type of workout I got in yesterday?
What type of workout?
Trying to get those fast, exorbitant carbs.
I already want to know. I'm scared. I already want to hear this, bro. My bad, chill. Go ahead.
I'm just thinking about Anthony Davis and Giannis. So I'm thinking after 21, when they won the NBA championship and AD got hurt, that's when it became less of a conversation between Giannis and Anthony Davis. And the fact that I watched him kick Anthony Davis' ass, but then Anthony Davis would come back and put 40 and 20 on him. But then he got hurt, right? But up until then, I mean, Ron, in 2018, I think he went almost 30 and 10 that year. He went almost 30 and 10 that year, was at not only elite level defense, he was carrying that unit offensively as their go-to guy, basically took out the Trailblazers, was the best player in that series. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think Giannis was doing that too. But to the level of what Anthony Davis was doing in that 2018 series, in that 2018 season, I mean, I don't think you give Anthony Davis nearly as much credit as you should. And he was doing that 17, 18. He didn't get hurt in 19. They shelved him in 19. They made it seem like he was hurt. And then in 20, I mean, he was in the league MVP conversation. He wasn't going to win it, but he was in it. He was one of the major reasons why they won the NBA championship off the elite level defense that he played that year. He wasn't a liability at the stripe. He had a money mid-range game. He was a better ball handler. It wasn't until Anthony Davis got hurt in 21 that the conversation started to go this way a little bit more, as opposed to when they won the NBA championship. It was really right here. I don't think you give Anthony Davis nearly as much credit as you should, Ron.
Anthony Davis, he just didn't quite hit.
What did Giannis do to move you that Anthony Davis? What did Giannis do to move you that Anthony Davis?
Giannis was the number one on a championship, is what it is. He led a team to a championship.
He ran
AD kind of did that too.
I mean, you can make a kid. He wasn't better than LeBron.
I'm sorry to break it to you, gentlemen. But AD did his thing in 2020.
He did. Trust me.
Ron did
Was Anthony Davis the best player on that team?
Bron did not put AD on his shoulders, bro.
It wasn't that. It wasn't on no shoulder.
I just wish Dion was here to hear that. But yeah.
No, because then we'd have a 45-minute discussion on why LeBron's the most hated player. But AD,
I could call him.
No, chill out.
AD in 2020 wasn't clearly the best player in a championship team like Giannis was in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we have to factor in context of championships and how good were the Bucks actually. When you look at it, they're one of the worst offenses to ever win a championship. Like, that's just factually speaking. They're one of the worst playoff offenses that won a chip. They were very, very good defensively, and Giannis was a big part of that. Drew Holiday was a big part of that. Middleton, Mike Budenholzer's coaching, Brook Lopez, all a big part of that. Giannis is yet to show that he can be the spearhead of a strong playoff offense. Never in Giannis's prime have the Bucks been a very good offense in the postseason. That's just a factual truth. Giannis is yet to show that that's possible. Some of it's because he's been hurt in the postseason. Some of it's because Mike Budenholzer was using him incorrectly, in my opinion. Some of it's because Drew Holiday was put in a role that he shouldn't have been in. There's a lot of reasons why it hasn't happened. But prior to the last couple of years with the playmaking improvement, I have been hesitant to say Giannis could be the number one guy in a strong playoff offense. Now, as his playmaking is improved, I'm coming more around to that theory, which is why I asked about the health thing. Because if you weren't factoring in health, I would say the last 3 years of Giannis's peak, 22, 23, and 24. But if we're factoring in health, the fact that he's been unavailable for the last two postseasons, forcing me to then say I'm taking 20 and 21 or 19 to 21 Giannis, I'm not taking that Giannis over Anthony Davis. I'm sorry. That 19 Giannis is way too flawed for me to say I'm taking him over Anthony Davis during that same time frame. Anthony Davis from 18 to 2020, in my opinion, is a better player than Giannis from 19 to 2021. Because that Giannis was way too flawed offensively, in my opinion, for me to take him. Some of it,
I don't know.
Shaquille O'Neal was very flawed offensively as well. If you think about it, if you change the context of the situation. So I'm asking, could you potentially put Giannis on those Lakers teams with Kobe Bean Bryant and Derek Fisher and Rick Fox? I mean, it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be the same.
Hell no.
No, I mean,
where
does Giannis fit in the triangle? What's his role?
Oh, I think he'd be great in the triangle.
Definitely be.
But what's his role? What's his role?
He would probably they wouldn't have Shaq in the post as much because I mean you saw the triangle.
No, Shaq's gone. You have to take Shaq out.
Right. So Shaq is
Giannis
out.
Giannis is the replacement for Shaq.
Right. Shaq. So I think it would be more of like what they did with.
He has advantages over Shaq as well, man. He's a slightly better free throw shooter. He's in my opinion, a better defender. Now, you can disagree with that, but Shaq is very limited defensively. He's not coming out. He's not guarding. I remember him guarding Vlade Divac and guys like Sabonis and guys, and they would open.
Was killing. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, so you take Giannis into that position, and suddenly you are definitely more versatile. You could play a lot faster, right? I don't want to say he's a better playmaker than Shaq, but he's an above average playmaker for a wing. And Shaq was an above average playmaker for a center. So I was like, you can toss the difference there. So I'm just saying, like, yeah, Shaq was a force of human nature, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
When I say Giannis, they lose to the Kings, they lose to Portland. You know what I'm saying? They lose. They have to lose to the difference. They lose to the Spurs, bro. They lose to the Spurs. I know he's an MVP. That's fine. But they like that. Shaq and Giannis are just this way different, bro. Like, yeah, I understand you saying he has flaws here and he has flaws there, but
that's what I'm saying.
The dominance, Shaq is way more dominant than Giannis in that role. Like I said, they lose to the Blazers, they lose to the Kings, they lose to the Spurs, they lose, bro. They like Giannis. That's not
the foul trouble that Shaq got the other team in was such a big factor in a lot of these games.
Giannis would do similar.
We sometimes very nostalgically look back at the past and we don't realize that at the time, like, yeah, Shaq was standing well above the league, but his peak, which is probably, I don't know, y'all disagree, but 99 to 2002, Shaq is like, to me, peak, right?
Yes.
That's the worst the NBA has probably been in the last 30 years. He ran roughshod over a very depleted NBA. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're talking about a league where Tyson Chandler and Eddie Curry were starting. We're talking about a league where I swear to God, bro, if any of y'all have NBA 2K, the original with Allen Iverson on the cover, go fire that up and go check
Tyson Chandler was starting for who in 2002?
Memphis.
I thought the Bulls.
Tyson Chandler?
Yeah,
right?
Chicago, not.
Yeah, it was on Chicago.
Okay.
Yo,
You know?
either way,
So,
be that as it may, though,
the league started to
He-
get really,
went
really
at
much
me.
better in 2006. But
I'm not
like
hating on
that
Giannis.
period where Steve
Yeah, I
Nash
don't
won
think
MVP,
like I said, I think
bro, like Steve Nash
interesting.
winning an MVP. Tell me Steve Nash will make first team All NBA today. Not a chance in hell. He
Why
won
not?
MVP.
Wait, hold on. Steve Nash was.
Wait, we don't need to make this about Steve Nash.
No.
But I want to.
No.
Why not?
Over who?
Irrelevant. I want to get back to Giannis because someone drink more water said I was disrespecting Giannis. First of all, I said I'd have Giannis over AD if we weren't factoring in health. But because of the health and he's missed the last 2 postseasons, you're making me factor in years that I don't think are Giannis's peak. That's not my fault. If you're taking out health, Giannis is above AD. But when we talk about the flaws of Giannis, I don't just mean he's a flawed jump shooter and he can't shoot because Shaq has similar flaws in that regard. The flaws I see within Giannis is because of him being a flawed jump shooter, him playing on the outside as much as he does causes some matchup issues, especially because with Shaq, he can't shoot, but he's positioning himself near the rim. So and because of his activity around the rim, it's not just he parks himself down there and waits. He's so active around the rim, you're committing resources to either take away to take away Shaq, or he's creating advantages away from the basketball in ways that Giannis doesn't, because he's not a very good screener, and because he's operating on the outside, the defense is already in front of him. He now has to evade the defense, whereas Shaq is already in the teeth of the defense, causing problems because he's 10 feet away from the rim. They operate in different spots on the floor. Also, Giannis's flaws as a playmaker in 19 in particular, but 20 also, were so glaring, especially when you look at when teams schemed against him in the postseason. His inability to read the floor and make the right reads was clearly hindering the Bucks offense. Some of it is they didn't have great shooting around him. I understand. But his inability to process the floor and make the adequate reads was costing the Bucks.
Now, Mars,
that's why I'm like,
keep going.
We're looking at him where he's operating. That's why I say he's flawed. Because it's not, Shaq had similar flaws to Giannis, but Shaq played in different parts of the floor. So his flaws weren't as easy to exploit offensively because Shaq wasn't out there dribbling on the perimeter trying to get downhill. He was already at the basket. So you couldn't put the defense in front of Shaq and then build a wall or do all of those things because Shaq was already behind your defense. So you already had to expect the fact that Shaq's putting pressure on our rim, whether or not he gets the ball or not, there's pressure on the rim. Giannis, that wasn't the case, because if you can stop him from getting to the rim and he couldn't make the right reads once you build that wall, once you collapse the defense, you're then nullifying his offense and he becomes an extremely flawed offensive player. I think he got better at that in the last 2 years, which is why I said 22 to 24 Giannis, undoubtedly above AD in my opinion. But if you make me use the flawed offensive version of Giannis, that guy's not better than Anthony Davis in my opinion.
Now let's take that flawed offensive version of Giannis, Mars, and I want to put him in the triangle offense where there's more action and there's more movement, there's more dribble handoffs. In addition to more dribble handoffs, there's more ways for him to get downhill. In addition to him getting to the box, I'm not saying that he's the same box player as Shaq and he can get behind the defense and create that much havoc like Shaq does. But on the perimeter, which Giannis is a damn good perimeter player, unlike Shaq, particularly in 19. That's why they built that wall for him. Now what I want you to do is I want you to add the triangle where you have 3, 4, 5 different ways where guys can score the basketball, where you have a whole lot of action. Giannis at that point in his career was still a damn good passer. Now don't get me wrong. I don't think that he was the processor that he was in 22 or in 23. But if you put him in that offense, in the triangle, where I got Kobe Bryant playing off me, where I have Robert Horry playing off me, where I have Derek Fisher and guys like that playing off me, where those guys needed to be paid attention to knock down open shots and to get downhill. Giannis, I feel like is smart enough where you can't just build a wall in front of him and stop him because he's not the primary focus of the offense. So if I get him in that triangle, I think I'm looking at a way different Giannis than I'm looking at as opposed to what he was doing with Bud, because Bud just gave him the ball and anybody just get off.
Some of it I can like the counter is Bud was using him incorrectly,
correct,
which I can 1000% empathize with. So if you're gonna say Giannis in a better situation where he wasn't asked to initiate from the perimeter, he would look better. I can see that. But then I look at Giannis as a screen setter. He's not a very good screen setter. He doesn't
19.
But it's not just Giannis. It's Giannis with D Wade, Giannis with Hardaway. Well, when has Giannis ever had a teammate that good? Giannis with Kobe. Like Shaq played with 3 of the greatest players of all time. I think y'all can sleep on Penny's peak all you want.
No, we're all aware of Penny. We're all with you on Penny. You don't have to worry.
100%.
Okay. So
100%.
what I'm saying is like you also have to think about who he's playing up against, and everyone's talking about the wall. Can we please talk about who built the wall?
Wait. Don't go there yet. Let's go back to who we played with and all the great players he played with. That's true, but those players didn't carry Shaq the way that Chris Middleton carried Giannis through that Eastern Conference.
Oh my God! I mean, yo,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Chris
what?
Middleton.
What are you talking about?
Are you telling me that Chris?
We had this conversation before.
Let me just get this straight. You telling me
somebody had to be
less...
Batman and the show wasn't Giannis?
Oh my goodness! Am I missing this? Or did Giannis put up 40 and 20 in the finals?
TikTok, bro.
Bro, like Giannis was unquestionably the best player on.
He was the guy. It wasn't a question, man.
For the last 8 years.
But I want you to get back.
It doesn't matter if you put Dame next to him. It doesn't matter who you put next to him.
No, Pin. Don't pin. Don't. Do not get on this train. Get back.
What
you were talking about a little while ago when we were talking about the triangle offense and Giannis having Dwayne Wade. He didn't. And then you said, let's get back on that. Penny Hardaway. Let's get back on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, like the separation that you need for Giannis to go to work, right? Everything comes down to space. So the triangle creates space. Motion offense creates space. They're all different ways to create space. So for me, Giannis playing off of Kobe is a completely different Giannis than Giannis playing off of Chris Middleton. And the gap between Chris Middleton and Kobe Bryant is bigger than, honestly, the length of the ocean. Okay, like Chris Middleton has never been on anyone's list as a top 20 player in the league. Kobe Bryant is on most people's lists as a top 10 player of all time. There's a big gap between these two players. And D Wade, honestly, top 3 shooting guard of all time. Like, we are really, really talking about some of the most dynamic guard playmakers ever. And they feed you, man. Like, Chris Middleton is not on that level. Giannis has never played with a guy on that level. He's now starting to play with a guy on that level. Unfortunately, he's not even on that level, and he's 34 or 35 years old. So to me, it's a different context. Bud is not the most imaginative coach. He's not Phil Jackson. He's not, Jeff, and he's not, Stan Van Gundy. He's not Pat Riley. So Shaq has been blessed. He was a really great player. I very much debated putting him number 1. I get it. There's a lot of nostalgia. He dominated the league, blah, blah, blah. He also had a lot of health issues. He also had a lot of conditioning issues. He did not want to get out of his comfort zone defensively, and frankly did not have the conditioning to do that. He was very one-dimensional offensively. You could argue he had every counter, post counter, whatever, but it's still like one area.
Not true. He did get out of his comfort zone defensively. He didn't just play on the block. No, that's not true. He did.
He did his best to stay.
He did his best, but in transition.
Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, Mars. Okay, sure. When you dragged him out, Malone and Stockton,
when you compare it to Giannis
in the water in the pick and roll, sure, I can get with that. But the other stuff, one-on-one, he wasn't terrible. He was not. Because guys like Sabonis,
defensively, he was awesome as a paint protector. But I'm saying, like, outside of that, if you had to get him to sprint out to a corner shooter, I'm just saying the league has gone away from this shrunken down floor that we were playing with in the 90s and early 2000s. We are really just stretching the court vertically, whereas before it was all horizontal. Now it's all vertical, right? Steph Curry changed the game, and then everyone started to innovate, and suddenly you got Trae Young, pulling up from the logo. And occasionally a center is going to get stuck on that matchup. He's going to have to contest that. So everyone's talking crap about Rudy Gobert. He's so trash because he's such a bad defender. He's precisely bad at every single thing. And he's way better at it than Shaq. No offense to Shaquille O'Neal. But everything that people complain about with Rudy Gobert, he's getting schemed out of defense, blah, blah, blah. That's everything Shaq struggled with defensively as well. It's just he didn't play in an era where that was really milked. So I'm saying, like, honestly, if Shaquille O'Neal played in this era, he's not that type of player, first of all. He's definitely taking shots from the logo and taking shots from 3 and whatever. He's definitely going to expand his game. In fact, Shaquille O'Neal said it himself. If he played in this, he's like, I do play in this era. My name is Giannis Antetokounmpo. He said it himself. That if he played in this era, he'd be more like Giannis. He wouldn't have bulked up, man. Shaq in Orlando was not big. Like, he wasn't wrong. He wasn't 330 pounds.
4% body fat. That's what he got the name the Diesel. That's what he was called. That's what he got the Diesel.
I think the disconnect between, like, Penn and myself and maybe others up here is Penn's value of era transportation and how it would translate to other eras. I'm not factoring in that at all when I'm ranking. So I'm just doing it. How did Shaq look in his time? So I can understand every concern he has about Shaq in today's game because I have similar concerns. And I can understand having Shaq somewhat lower or in different conversations if you factor that in. I'm not factoring that in. So I'm just saying relative to what Shaq was asked to do in the 2000s, where you couldn't exploit his reluctance to leave the rim as much. The only teams that really did it, like in his peak, was the Kings, the Blazers with Arvidas. Anyone else? They never played the Sonics in the playoffs, but I watched Ray Allen just come off about 17 screens and destroy him. But like those type of teams, the Pacers did it to a lesser degree. Like not many teams could do what Shaq's weakness was on defense. But I can understand saying, you put Shaq against the Warriors or the Suns or a bunch of these teams with pull-up threats, he's going to look a lot worse defensively. I agree with that. I'm just not factoring that in when I'm ranking players at their best. Well, I'm trying not to as much as possible. So that's why I still have Shaq number 1. And Drink More Water is very mad at me for apparently hating on Giannis by only speaking about his flaws. So I want to clarify. I spoke about KG's flaws as a scorer, how he wasn't an imposing post threat.
Mars, this is strictly Giannis versus AD. This is strictly Giannis versus AD, and I can't believe I came up here and haven't just defended Giannis against AD. I can't believe I really let you guys get this off when it comes to AD.
But also, I said I got Giannis over AD if I'm factoring in the years that I actually think are his peak. But you guys told me about the injuries thing, and that's why I've had to change the years of Giannis's peak. If you tell me take away injuries, I've got the last 3 years of Giannis comfortably over Anthony Davis. 2022, 2023, and 2024, I think are comfortably better than Anthony Davis.
Go with your peak.
You guys told me about the injuries. 19 to 21, which is not close to Giannis's peak, in my opinion, because of 19 in particular, is why I'm taking Anthony Davis. So just to clarify, I think Giannis is a better player than Anthony Davis was at his best. I've just had to take 3 different years.
I think being just healthy in your peak years definitely matters.
Before I get called to hate
the games. Yeah, but I just want to quickly add too for what Pem was saying for how like Shaq in this era would play different. Yeah, I do think he wouldn't necessarily balk, that he would have stayed at the Orlando weight situation. But I also think the way we talk about how Steph came in, changed the game, the way Victor, the impact he's going to have in the league. If Shaq was a prospect today and he comes to the league, we're talking about Shaq the same way we're talking about Wemby and the effect he has on the game. If he does choose to bulk up, I think he changes the game in the reverse. If he just comes in and bulks up and comes that 350-pound monster, I think other teams have to adjust to him, just like kind of how teams adjust to Steph Curry in the way they were playing, how they changed the game. The game would change if Shaq came in today. He would be a physical freak that we've never seen. Because we've seen it, it's been kind of normalized. But he comes in today and again, bulks up with 350 pounds. We're calling him a superhuman. The game is going to be played in the post with him, and other teams are literally signing big men or forcing their big men to eat more food and get bigger to guard.
For the record, he was out of shape at 350. He was out of shape, just so you know,
and still hooping.
Yeah,
even then though, people still try to act like Big Shaq was just a big
blob,
slow blob. Like he was.
What was so impressive was the agility
he had. That's what I'm saying. He was quicker. He had quick feet. He had good feet. He had quick, soft hands. He had good touch. Like just y'all, people look at the size of Shaq and just automatically say, "Oh, he couldn't move." But like that's just a lie. It's simply just a lie.
I'm not saying he couldn't move. I'm saying he didn't move very much, and that's my point. Like in transition, you play at a slower pace.
A whole lot more than you give him credit for.
I just think portability.
I watched this entire peak. I watched this entire peak, man, and I realized that teams stacked bigs at the end of their bench just to rack up fouls on this guy because he couldn't stop him, and I get that, right? But at the end of the day, you don't see any teams running post offense. It's not like there aren't good post scorers. Just teams are not running offense out of the post that much anymore, and that's partially because it's just not as efficient in a league.
And because they don't have Shaq. If Shaq was in the league, they'd run post offense.
It's not all about Shaq, man.
Yes, because if you have Shaq on your team, you don't not run post offense. It's because none of these dudes are Shaquille O'Neal. Like I understand what you're saying. Obviously the game has changed. Obviously the game has changed. I can agree with that. I'm not trying to push back on that, Pen. Right. We can all see that, right? But if you have Shaq on your team, you're dumping it down to the big fella because nobody's ever been able to. Nobody can stop it.
That's like having Ray Allen on the crew and you're not running pin downs.
We're not. No shooting. Like what?
I got Steph Curry on the crew and I'm not running pin downs and I'm not running.
Who do you think's the best post scorer in today's game among the bigs? Yeah. Like who's a guy where you like? If I dump it down to this guy, I'm generating 2 points.
Jokic.
Joel and Jokic, right? Where are they generating their offense from? More often than not. Are they always?
Neither one of them are Shaq.
Yeah, they're not Shaq. That's the thing. Like Shaq is still so far ahead of those guys.
I'm not comparing either one of them to Shaq.
And on top of that, Shaq got better post work than him. We're not talking about
four. It's not even close.
We're not talking about just bullying and bruising and all of that. Shaq's jump hook.
Are we
money.
sitting here pretending
Jokic doesn't last 3 quarters against Shaq? He doesn't last 3 quarters against Shaq. I
promise you, Jokic 2 quarters against Shaq.
I think he's fouling out every single game. There's no way he survives against Shaq. It's just not going to happen with Jokic. Jokic is great offensively. Defensively, it's over with. He's picking up 2-3 in the first quarter every game they play. Every single game they play, he's picking up 2 or 3 in the first, and he's not playing more than 3.
This is nuts.
You're really, really talking about Shaq like he's God, bro. Like he's.
Oh,
like,
Shaq!
He's
whoa! Hang on, Pen.
I mean,
Shaq was pretty. I mean, they changed the rules for him, so let's not act like.
No, I understand, bro. Like I understand.
Clear on that.
Look,
but
I put one of my favorite players of all time. Like literally, my first jersey I ever bought was a Tim Duncan champion jersey. I remember I bought it off my first paycheck, $5 an hour. I earned that money. And I got that Tim Duncan jersey. I love Tim Duncan so much. And I didn't put him anywhere near the top of this list. Personal biases aside, we all have great memories of Shaquille O'Neal dominating the hell out of Dikembe Mutombo and him looking helpless, right? But I'm saying, like, you know, let's get real with where athleticism is today, where the game is today. We're talking about an era. Shaquille O'Neal dominated an era where we're talking like 1.02 points per possession was efficient offense. Right. Today, that's isolation, independent offense. That's what a good isolation scorer like DeMar DeRozan, I think we talked about DeMar last, I think he's at 1.18 points per possession out of isolation, which means DeMar DeRozan, just to put that into perspective, for anyone out there who's like, oh, who's this warp guy talking numbers? That means DeMar DeRozan today is more efficient as an isolation scorer than the average team in Shaq's era was at offense.
What does that have to
do
with
better?
Which is fine, but
led the league.
What I'm saying is 3 point. The 3-point element
a bunch of years.
Everything. The 3-point element of this changes everything because in an era where teams are scoring 130, 140 points, you cannot have a drop big who does not shoot threes and make that like the precipice of your offense, especially one who cannot shoot free throws. Let me stress that point too.
That's important. That matters. 100%. That does matter. But what you're leaving out is what you're leaving out is the 3-point shot that you're talking about with these teams. Now I want you to add in a big who rim runs, soft hands, finishes around the rim, who demands a double team, not just on the box, not just around the rim, but also in the mid post, right? Also on the baseline. How much that shrinks the defense and opens up the court even more because Shaq had a fall away 14-footer. Shaq had a mid post fall away 12 to 14-footer. That shrinks the defense even more, which allows guys like
over both shoulders, too.
Which allows guys like
Shaq doesn't have a place in today's NBA.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when you bring up stuff like the athlete, I mean, Shaq wasn't a good athlete. Shaq wasn't a great athlete. Shaq was a superior athlete. So as fast as the game is today, it would even be better for him because of the rim runner that he is, how he gets the ball off the glass and goes with it and handles it, and his ability to pass the ball in transition. Shaq really wanted to be Doc, just so you guys know. His 2 favorite players growing up were Ewing and Dr. J. And it was his father who made him get on the box because Doc was his guy. He loved Dr. J. That's who he wanted to be like. But with that being said, the way he plays in today's game, like you talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo, well, add in Giannis being superior on the box. Add that to his game. How much better are the Milwaukee Bucks? In addition to Shaq being as smart as he is.
I hear what you're saying.
You know what that's called, Shil? That's called playing inside out.
Yeah, Shaq would create threes.
That actually helps 3-point shooters, Pin. When you got a big man that's dominant like Shaq, but also has the IQ to understand that I'm here to win. That means at the beginning of the game we dump it down to the big. When y'all start closing out, we're getting more open threes. That's called playing inside out.
The 09.
Yeah, I know. I watched the Nuggets play that way with Jokic all the time. I get it. I get that dumping it into the post and stuck it in a second defender and having some movement and having someone come off a pin down and that's a great shot. I get it. I'm not saying Shaq doesn't have a place in today's NBA. I'm not saying he wouldn't be one of the top 3 centers in today's NBA. He definitely is one of the best centers of all time for a reason. Yes, I'm saying top 3. That doesn't mean he's not number 1, number 2, number 3. I'm just saying he's in that conversation as top 3 because Jokic and Embiid are here. What I'm trying to say is that I believe whenever people tell me about, Bill Russell, and obviously I'm very much higher on Bill Russell than pretty much anyone in the world right now, right? I put him at number 2 on my GOAT debate, and people just hate me for it. They say, not LeBron. Okay, fine. The reason I say that is because work ethic translates across generations. To me, if you're gonna say Bill Russell ain't shit because he went up against plumbers and firemen, if you're JJ Redick, then I gotta say Bill Russell had the type of competitive athletic spirit that he would have worked his butt off. And Bill Russell was a fantastic athlete. Will Chamberlain's a fantastic athlete. These guys, their muscles and skill set would develop and change for the era. What would not change, however, is the internal competitive spirit, their habits, their commitment to their craft, their willingness to be in the gym, their willingness to take their off-court regimen seriously. And to me, I think that you cannot blame the 2000s for Shaq being out of shape every single offseason. You cannot blame the 2000s for that. There's not an athlete today that I rate on that level who comes in out of shape every single offseason and ends up being toe injuries. And to me, the saddest thing about Shaquille O'Neal's career is he left so much on the table. The God-given gift that was. And that's why I do rate LeBron as highly as I do, because he left very little, if anything, on the table. That's also why, despite being a Fred VanVleet hater, I leave nothing. I have nothing but respect for the guy because he left nothing on the table. There's literally not 1 iota, 1% more of Fred VanVleet's potential. And I respect players who take every ounce of potential that God gave them and maximize it. Kobe Bryant is the absolute pinnacle of, and KD could be up in that. Dirk could be on that list. Those guys, Tim Duncan, Muggsy Bogues, I'm sure you could put him on that list. I wasn't gonna, but sure. Those guys, to me, that's like you milked every inch, every percentage of everything because you had a great off-court habits. You were coachable. You were a student of the game. You worked your butt off. You kept yourself in shape. That, to me, is greatness. That's why that always leaves with Shaq. I'm always left in doubt a little bit because I'm like, you left something on the table. You let a lot of personal stuff get in the way of your dynamic with Kobe. I'm not going to get into that, but definitely you cannot have an 18, 19-year-old calling your ass lazy. That's the way Kobe felt about him. You can't have your 19-year-old being the dictator in your locker room. What?
Kobe was a jerk.
He was a killer. MJ was a jerk too, but you know what I mean? Like he pushes you.
What I'm saying is just because everybody now maybe Shaq might have had some lazy off seasons. I don't know. I wasn't there. What I'm saying is you just because you want to be in the gym for 12 hours a day and I come to the gym for 3 hours a day and get my work in, don't mean you can sit there and call me lazy and say I'm not passing you the ball because you're not working as hard as me. You're a psychopath. You're in the gym. You don't have to be in the gym for 12 hours. You're a nutcase. I don't gotta prove myself to you. I don't gotta be in here working 13 hours a day because you are. That's you. If I'm in the gym for 3-4 hours a day, I'm getting my work in. You want to be here for 13 hours. Don't call me lazy because you're a psycho.
I've listened to a lot of Kobe interviews on this. You want to be the man.
Shaq didn't have to be in the gym that much. I hate to admit it, and I hate to say this, and I don't advocate for cutting corners, but we are talking about Shaquille O'Neal. He didn't have to be in the gym.
Ron.
That's his point, but I'm going against his point. Shaq was lazy. Okay. Shaq was still the most dominant force we've ever seen in the league. And my thing is like, okay, let's say Shaq is in the gym. What are we gonna say that just makes him age better?
Yes.
Yeah, he would have aged better if he took care of himself for sure.
LeBron James,
bro, in a peak conversation,
I don't care if you're a LeBron hater or if you're a LeBron lover, but please understand that before the USA-Canada game, LeBron was out for 2 hours before the game, shooting around, stretching, getting treatment. Look at Victor Wembanyama right now. Look at how seriously he's taken his conditioning and his body. I value this. Any athlete out there, honestly, do not rely on the genetic gift and the lottery because it does not last. It does not age. Shaquille O'Neal could have aged phenomenally better. Shaq was an incredible passer. He was huge. He was a great athlete. He is absolutely every bit the athlete, if not an even better athlete than LeBron James. and Will Chamberlain. Maybe not Will Chamberlain.
Are you penalizing Shaq because he could? I think he could have been better too. I'm with you.
I penalize anybody who quotes on greatness.
He's probably the GOAT, right? He's probably the GOAT if Kobe.
Oh, well,
he's not probably the GOAT. He's definitely the GOAT.
Sure, that's fine. That's fine. But you're penalizing Shaq simply because you think he could have been better. But that has nothing to do with what he actually did on the court, which is still great.
Yeah. I just disagree with that line.
So to answer your question, Penn, I think Shaq is at 1. I think Duncan is at 2. I think KG is at 3. I think Giannis is at 4. I think AD is at 5.
Did you forget Jokic or are you just talking?
I'm sorry. I'm looking right at it. So who did I said Shaq at 1. I said Shaq at 1, Duncan at 2, KG at 3, Joker at 4, Giannis at 5, AD at 6, Embiid at 7.
What about Dirk?
You got Dirk at 8.
Dirk was ahead of Embiid, yo. I think so. I think Dirk was ahead of Embiid.
Yes, if you factor in injuries, I think Embiid has to go last, and that's why I asked about the injuries.
Yes, Dirk was ahead
of
Embiid.
If you're not factoring in injuries, I promise you.
I think Dirk's last. Yeah, that's
why I said the health thing is such a big deal here because
I don't want the health thing to be a thing.
I want us to completely forget 5 minutes on a super chat. That's amazing.
I want to completely
good show. Yeah, good show. Yeah.
I want to completely.
Omar might be disappointed, but I like.
We had this yesterday.
Every second of this conversation.
Absolutely, we had this yesterday, and Ron shows us his 10 minutes before the show over. Like, wait a minute, we can't just go over this in 10 minutes. What the hell?
He's 50 late. If he would have said,
we gotta have a conversation about
$5. A $5 super chat never went further in panel history. Ever.
I don't know.
That was a good question. I thought it's worth he sent it twice. It really is a
good super chat.
We've had people send $1 super chats that has something to do with Bron versus Jordan. We've talked about that for a week. So
Jalen, Mars, and Ox. Can I get you guys' top 8 before we move off it?
I only got 7. Right?
No, not Mars. I want to hear yours. Not factoring it. Hell.
Oh, okay. Shaq 1. KG, Duncan. Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, AD, Dirk.
Dirk was. I keep forgetting how nice Dirk. I'm sorry, Ox.
Dirk is nice, chill. But you guys said
to remember.
Someone has to go last. Like I'm not saying Dirk is trash.
Dirk and Jokic are the worst defenders on the list by a mile.
Yes, they are.
You better not go to Germany, bro.
I just keep forgetting.
It wasn't on the bucket list.
I keep forgetting how nice Dirk was. He had an offensive player.
They are petitioning in the streets of Frankfurt against Mars right now.
AD, Dirk, and Embiid can all flip. I don't like. I picked someone last. I'm sorry. I think Dirk is one of the best scorers we've ever seen. The value he brought away from the ball was spectacular. The fact that he's the best shooting big we've ever seen. Cat can shut up. I don't care. It's Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk was special as a squad. And I think everyone keeps asking, what's Dirk's peak? For me, his peak comes after his MVP. So, hot take, I don't know. Like 08, 09, 2010, 2011. Like those years are when I think he's at his best. Because that's when I think his strength maxes out. His post game is fully refined. That's when he really adds that one legger that everyone knows and loves. That's when his playmaking got to another level, when he was processing the floor better and he was navigating double teams at a higher level. That Dirk Nowitzki, one of the best scorers I've ever seen. But I'm sorry, defensively, there's some problems there. As a playmaker, as a passer, there's a lot of problems there. I don't know how highly I can hold his scoring and his offensive value away from the ball in comparison to how good I think AD was in the scheme versatility he would provide, the off-ball value he provided as a vertical spacer, as a pick and pop option, as someone who could pick and roll, all of those things. Then defensively, it's just eons in terms of perimeter defense, drop, hedge, help side defense, all of the defensively, obviously, it's not a question. And then Embiid, if we're not factoring in health, I can make the argument Embiid is a better scorer. Now,
Yes, I think I can make a very sound argument.
I don't hate it. I don't.
You're telling me I
crazy.
don't factor in health. I think I can make a very
Right.
sound
We're talking about
argument.
we're talking about Mars again. We're talking about Joel Embiid healthy.
Yes, I think I can make a very sound argument that Embiid is a better scorer than Dirk Nowitzki.
Let's hear it.
Do we care about playoffs?
Real quick.
Do we care about playoffs?
Because
playoffs
taking health off the table, Mars.
But then I would just argue that
we're taking health off the table.
I would argue a large portion of Embiid's playoff struggles are because he's not healthy. So that's why I'm asking. Like that's why I'm saying it gets confusing with Embiid. I'm fine saying Dirk over Embiid if you think Embiid's playoff struggles are not because of his health in a large capacity.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I think the health thing is a big question.
Was
because
he
if I believe Embiid is that good, I don't believe he's just that much worse of a scorer in the postseason. I think he's gone through a torn meniscus. He's had a broken face twice. He had a sprained LCL. He's been hurt damn near every postseason except 2020. How much of that am I going to really put on him as a player? When I'm thinking about what I see in a regular season, he's probably the best scorer I've ever seen when it comes to operating in the middle of the floor. He draws free throws at a rate that I've never seen before, especially for a 90% free throw shooter. He's one of the best mid-range shooting bigs of all time. He's not Dirk. Dirk is the best, but he's one of the best mid-range shooting bigs of all time. His post game is unstoppable. He can shoot the three. He can pick and pop. He can pick and roll. His touch around the rim is spectacular. He's an elite catch and shoot weapon from three. He shoots like 38% on catch and shoot threes. Embiid is spectacular as a scorer. I also think, which is he's not a good passer, but I think he's a better passer than Dirk was. So, like, I think the only argument against Embiid, but I'm just talking about now.
Injuries that kept him out have kept Kobe out.
One more time, Pen.
Would any of the injuries that kept Embiid out that you just listed, his entire, medical history there, would any of that have kept Kobe out?
Yeah. Joel played through
a torn meniscus. I think so.
We gotta stop glorifying players.
A broken face probably wouldn't make.
No, it wouldn't.
Kobe struggle. A torn meniscus, I think, would. But also, he's not Kobe. Like, he's also a 7'1", 300-pound behemoth. He's not a 6'6", 200. So it's different.
Let me just drop my list real quick, Ron, because I got to skedaddle.
All right, for sure.
Real quick. I got Shaq, KG, Tim, Dirk, Giannis, Joker, AD.
And Embiid's not just getting ranked because he's a bum.
No need,
I'm fine for the same because Embiid's health is like Giannis is different. Giannis's health isn't as big of a question as Embiid. I'm fine putting Embiid last because the playoff performance does hurt him a lot offensively. Defensively, I think he actually gets better in the postseason, but that's another story. But I'm fine putting Embiid behind Dirk because of the health and how concerning it is. So I'll say Shaq, KG, Duncan, Jokic, Giannis, AD, Dirk, Embiid. And AD and Dirk can flip, and I'll just keep Embiid last for the health part of it. Just so everyone can... I don't hate Dirk. I don't hate him. I'm sorry. Someone has to go.
Mars, you're a hater. You hate Dirk. I can't believe it.
Yeah, you're right, man. I hate Dirk.
I've been calling you a hater this whole segment, Mars.
It's crazy. And I know I guarantee I rank Dirk higher than damn near everyone up here. It's not my fault. You asked me about peak. Like, I'm sorry. AD is very good. You're talking about strictly peak.
That argument is really compelling, Mars. I just think about Dirk, how much better of a transition player he was. How much better of I think he was a better one-on-one player than Joel Embiid. I think he was better on the box. I don't think he was superior on the box. I think he was better on the box. I think he was better in the mid-range. I definitely think he was a better stop and pop shooter than Joel Embiid. He was slightly better at the stripe, and I feel like he was better in the clutch. Around the rim, I give the edge to Joel Embiid. Just because he was but that's what I'm talking about. I'll give the edge to Joel Embiid. That's what I'm saying. Like, but I feel like one-on-one, I feel like Dirk's ability to get to the rim and counter, straight line to the rim, or get to the rim and counter, I think that was better than Joel Embiid's. I think the separator for me is in transition. Dirk's ability to stop and pop or to crack the long ball. He revolutionized the 4 spot. He completely revolutionized the 4 spot. I have a real difficult time thinking about a guy at the 4 spot who can match up with that. And I'm talking about a time when Weber was running around and Rasheed Wallace.
No one was ready for what Dirk was doing.
Nobody was doing that. Nobody. And they had no answer for that. So, wow.
I've said, I think PG, I think Dirk
He
is
took
the
a lot
best
of
offensive power for whatever. I think
Let's
I've said
respect who,
yesterday.
Rasheed. He took a lot of threes.
That's true. He did. Rasheed
He
Wallace.
did.
He did.
He wasn't Dirk.
And he was a much better
yesterday.
defender. I think there's an argument to be made that Rasheed Wallace might be the most underrated player of all time. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, I'm 1000% not mad at that. But I said yesterday, I think Dirk's the best offensive power for whatever. Like that's how high regard I hold him. It's just
Dirk's the best.
But to me, even when we have this conversation, we have the Dirk versus.
I just think, like, honestly, I think we are very, very much underrating playmaking here, and
Let me ask you a question,
offensive generation.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I said that, and then someone got mad at me saying, "Why you vectoring playmaking?"
My question to you when you talk about Sheed. My question to you when you talk about Sheed is, whenever we have these underrated conversations, the question is, where do you think Rasheed Wallace should be rated? You think he's one of the 10 best 4 men ever? How about 15?
In terms of career, no. You know, because other guys have more championships, more numbers, more accolades, right?
Forget that, man. Just as a player.
But as a player, if I play out his career, you know, just talent. Like let me put it this way: we're playing a game where we're playing pickup, and I got every power forward in the league, and the 9 best guys are off the board, and it's Rasheed and a whole bunch of guys. I'm probably picking Rasheed Wallace.
So he's the most underrated talent. If not the most underrated. One of the most underrated talents.
He might be a top 5 skilled power forward.
Okay, first of all, the numbers just do not
more
do it
skilled than
justice.
Rasheed.
Like, here's the thing: the numbers just don't do it justice, right? First of all, like those Blazers teams were so stacked, like, but the parity was ridiculous, right? Yeah, Damon Stoudemire, Steve Smith, yeah, Derek Anderson at one point, Scottie Pippen, Arvydas Sabonis, Brian Grant. Like, it was a stacked team. Detlef Schrempf off the bench, like, it was a ridiculous. Sean Kemp at some point, Zach Randolph at one point, Bonzi Wells. Like, I mean, it really was like a core of 9-10, right? And Coach Mike Dunleavy, I believe at the time, he was coaching them, and then eventually he was Coach Mo Cheeks. So they played a deep bench. I don't think his usage ever dominated it, but I will always go back to this moment, and it was the Blazers versus the Lakers, and Shaq is going beast mode, and you know the Blazers are running out of bigs, and the commentator, I remember who said it. He said, you know, the Blazers are saying we don't have anybody that can guard Shaquille O'Neal, and then the other commentator said, well, the Lakers could argue they don't have anybody who can guard Rasheed Wallace. It's the same problem. And he was so good. He was such a tactician on the block. He could stretch the defense out. He was a much better defender in space than people give him credit for. And he was a beast defender on the block, but he didn't rack up the block numbers, right? But positionally, you're playing up against Rasheed Wallace, you're having a really bad night. I think when the argument came out about who's the best power forward in the league, and that really was the golden era of the 4, right? You had Chris Webber, you had Rasheed Wallace, KG, Tim Duncan still playing the 4 at the time. I always put Rasheed in that group, even though he was worse than KG and Duncan. To me, he was right there as that good. But the numbers will never justify that. The usage will never justify that. But the talent, my eye test tells me he was that good. And then when he goes to Detroit, he totally morphs himself into this like defensive juggernaut who's just taking threes. He was a little bit older at that point. I mean, he's been on the record many, many, many times since his post-playing career. He didn't care about numbers. All he cared about was winning. That's my type of player. He was my favorite player. He, Vince, Kobe, like these were my favorite players growing up. He was definitely one of them, and I loved all the technicals, every single one of them. I loved them all. That league was damn crooked at that time, and he called them out for it.
I know you got to go, Ron, but I can honestly say this was during the 2000 Western Conference Championship, and I remember seeing Malone, Barkley, James Worthy, the power forwards even of today. I can honestly say Rasheed Wallace during the 2000 West Finals, he was the first guy that I ever remember watching going, I think he could score every time he touched the ball. I don't think that they got one guy out there that could stop him. And AC Green was doing everything he could to slow down Sheed. He couldn't do anything with him. And this was during the series. This wasn't just one game. This was throughout the series. I was getting worried because I'm thinking they might beat y'all off the strength that you have nobody to stop him. Even though they got nobody to stop you neither, Big, right? But y'all don't have anybody to slow him down. Nobody. And that might be the difference in this series. I can't remember the last time I had seen something like that from a four-man in particular. And you guys know how I feel about Malone. But watching him, I was thinking they might win this series off the strength that they got nobody who could slow him down.
Exactly. And I mean, like coming out of North Carolina, he was super, super athletic dude. He was a rim running guy. Did he ever play, you know, if he and, you know, I think about situation a lot with players, right? I think about situation. I think about era. Who were you coached by? Who were your teammates, right? Because Blake Griffin's career is very different without Chris Paul, right? Tim Duncan's career is probably very different without Greg Popovich. I'm not saying it wouldn't be successful. It's just it's a different situation. If Tim Duncan had actually ended up in Orlando like he was supposed to, it's a very different career. It's a different arc. So I think about Rasheed Wallace. I'm like, man, if he had become that role pop big, you know, like with a really great point guard, just feeding him, man. And if they spammed it, if he was selfish enough to like really, really rack up those numbers, if he was chasing those accolades, if he was chasing MVPs and stuff, I think he would have gotten a lot closer than people realize. Like his talent level was just right there for me. But there's a lot of guys who they had talent. You know, Chris Webber had a lot of talent, tons of talent, right? I think they did. I think they both fell short of that, you know, Karl Malone, Tim Duncan, you know, mark for different reasons. I could live with Rasheed's reasons a little bit better because he was on stacked teams and he wasn't a selfish player.
Yeah, so looking at his usage rates and his shot attempts, he just never had the opportunity to really be a number one compared to the other
Exactly
guys.
how I feel.
He was the number one. He was the best player on the Blazers by far for the vast majority. I don't say the vast.
Yeah,
majority,
I could
like
say he's the best player. His number one usage compared to other players.
To give people an idea of just how deep that Blazers roster was, Jermaine O'Neal was a third string, a third stringer.
Yeah, he wasn't
playing. He was a third stringer on that team. You know what I mean? So like, I mean,
Mars, how much meat was left on the bone with Manu Ginobili?
I think. Well, for me, Manu Ginobili's he's as good as I think he could have been. I just think the Penn's point about the numbers is it's not going to pop off the box. I don't think he ever averaged 20. Like, so you have to sit down and watch and see how he's impacting the game, how great he was operating in pick and roll, but then he also plays without the basketball, how aware he was of space manipulation on the court, understanding when to cut, understanding when to relocate. Anytime the Spurs got into a bind, guess who they were going to? Manu Ginobili. The ability for him to drive by anyone was ridiculous. I don't understand how he was able to sneak his way through gaps that weren't even there. Don't understand it, but he was doing it. He was easily their best passer on the team. Defensively, the way the competitiveness was relentless, hustling after everything, putting his body on the line. He was taking hits that not many people would be willing to take. He just did everything a winning player should do. Or no, everything you'd hope a winning player would do. But then he'd also be a guy that the Spurs would go to consistently. And then you look at like how the Spurs performed when he wasn't on the floor versus when he was on the floor. Visibly worse. Just in every single category, they were a worse team when Manu Ginobili wasn't out there. And then you hear he was going up against bench units. And then you ignore how much they staggered their lineups and how often the Spurs were playing Manu Ginobili with bench players against other strong lineups, and he was still pulling that Spurs team along. And they actually played better with him on the floor than with Tim Duncan on the floor during Ginobili's prime. Ginobili is special. He's easily one of the 10 best shooting guards to ever play the game. If you don't have him in the top 10, you just didn't watch him enough. I don't care what you're trying to tell me. I don't care what you're trying to sell me.
I have him very
Manu Ginobili is one of the best players ever. I don't care if he never averaged 20. I don't care. He's easily top 75. He was robbed of making top 75. There's like maybe 5 shooting guards I'm definitively taking over him. Everyone else, Manu Ginobili's in that conversation. That's how good he is.
There's a difference between them being better, and it's just.
It depends. If you think Jerry West is a 2 guards, Jerry West.
I have Jerry West and
then James Harden is the other one. I'm like, okay, you got James Harden.
I got them dudes in different.
Everyone else, Allen Iverson, Clyde Drexler, T-Mac, Vince, Ginobili has a conversation with all of them, in my humble estimation.
All right, fellas, I got to step in and salute everybody in the chat. We all know the chat clears, and for obvious reasons, Go ahead and slap that like button if you haven't. Shout out to all of our subscribers. Shout out to our Hall of Famers as well. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Y'all know who you are. Jerryality, Cobra Son of Raditz, Mikhail, the great Dorian Clayton, and my man Kendall Daniels. Appreciate y'all for tapping in. I better see y'all next Friday for Hall of Fame Friday. At least one of y'all, but preferably all 5 of y'all. Y'all already know the drill. Go check out playerschoicemerch.com. Chill, can we see your shirt? Can we see what you rocking right now? Hey, man, go get them championship rings. Go get your championship rings. And also, too, y'all already know this, but I'm going to go ahead and put it on your mind once again. And if you don't know it, check this out right here. We got the PCL, 7-week tournament, NBA Debate League with a lot of your favorite panelists from right here on Players Choice and some people that y'all haven't yet seen. Go ahead and tap into this. It's going to be $1,000 cash prize winner, and it's also going to be another special prize that's given to the winner as well. But we need 2 new people from outside of the PC circle to come help us complete this league. We got 14 contestants right now, but we need 16. We need 2 more people to shine up. So if you think you got what it takes to come and debate against the greats, scan this QR code and go ahead and make that happen.
I already spent my $1,000.
Oh, damn. So basically, we're reimbursing you.
Looks like you.
That's exactly it. I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need that in 3 installments. All right, real.
I like that. That's $1,000 USD too, Ron. That's about 1,300 Canadian. That's all right.
Nice.
All right. I got some super chats before we move on and really start deep diving into the summer league and whatnot. Drink More Water sent through a super chat. He said, "Rank where you want to rank. But my main issue with Giannis convos is people spend more time talking about his flaws versus his strengths. Even in this convo, every other player got highlighted, but it's all flaws with Giannis."
That's because Giannis's flaws are so highlighted. That's why. It's not that Giannis or Anthony Davis or Embiid or Shaq didn't have flaws. It's just that Giannis's flaws are just glaring. The fact that he does not want to go to the stripe at the end of the game. Shaq didn't want to go to the stripe at the end of the game too, but he would make them. The fact that Giannis would turn the ball over, Giannis would look different with his ability to score at the end of games. It was glaring what his deficiencies were and how you could scheme against him. That's it. It's not that we don't value. It's not that I don't value Giannis. I still think he's the second best player in the world behind Joker. It's just that whatever he's deficient at, there's a light shown on it more than what he's good at.
But I do think it's fair to Giannis's highlights. He's one of the best rim finishers we've ever seen. If he's not the best, he's in the top 5 easily. Defensively, you haven't seen a power forward give you as much utility as Giannis does. His ability to play that help side roamer role is probably the best in the NBA still to this point. The fact that he's 6'11" and he's mobile enough to stay in front of perimeter attackers is special. He gives you excellent utility as a big man defender. He's the reason Brook Lopez has looked as good defensively in recent years as he has. Brook Lopez this year, you've seen a steady decline, but generally speaking, he's made Brook Lopez look like one of the best defensive bigs in the league because of his ability to cover up those holes. As a playmaker, especially in recent years, his ability to map the floor and process and understand angles, and when the defense collapses, knowing who's open. He's actually made some interior passes this year too, showing that his understanding of the game and spacing is leveling up year upon year. His post game is becoming more refined as his career goes on. He's adding a little hook shot to his game. He's got a comfortable little turnaround over his left shoulder that looks very good. He's getting to a point where you really like where his post game is going. He doesn't settle for a bunch of threes anymore. He's taken a lot of very high percentage shots, and he's really maximizing his efficiency. In transition, he may be the best scorer we've ever seen. I don't even think that's a hyperbolic statement. He might be the best transition scorer we've ever seen. And in the postseason, there's a reason the Bucks defense is always very, very good. Yes, they have guys like Drew Holiday, but Giannis is a huge reason as to why the Bucks defense have always been consistently very good in the postseason. The Bucks in 2020 and 2021, I think, had some of the best postseason defenses we've ever seen. That's a huge testament to how good Giannis is at plugging up gaps, making rotations, shutting off the rim, all of those things. Giannis Antetokounmpo is one of the most highly valuable, versatile players you can have on both sides of the ball in terms of the things he can do. He's easily one of the 20 best players we've ever seen play basketball. Easily.
Better transition player than James Worthy?
Yes.
That's a without a doubt.
The only as an overall transition player, the only guys who I think are in Giannis's conversation are LeBron and Magic. As an overall transition scorer, the only guy who I think is in Giannis's conversation is LeBron.
Better than Scotty as a transition player?
Yes. Giannis in transition is automatic. Every time, automatic. Either you're getting a good shot for someone else, or he's getting right to the rim and getting fouled, or he's scoring.
Orlando,
how many people, but no,
Yes.
this to me is like how many people had his spacing? How many people are working in this area?
Right.
You are talking about shrunken down space, and I do think that this is being a little unfair to someone like Scottie Pippen, who is elite in space. Worthy, I think, a lot of what James Worthy did, a lot of what Clyde Drexler did, Julius Erving. There's a lot of guys that you could say, Vince Carter, whatever. They were really operating in like some very cramped flooring, right? But again, if you orient an entire offense around a guy going downhill, then I mean, can we talk about Will Chamberlain? I mean, that guy could run so fast down the court. Who's stopping him, right? So I mean, like it's very situational. It goes right back to the Manu Ginobili talk where you said you put James Harden over Manu Ginobili, and I'm like, I get where you're coming from, and I might even agree with that. But did Manu Ginobili ever have Mike D'Antoni telling him to go out and do 40% usage? Never. So it's very opportunistically based. But I get where you're coming out with Giannis. Like they call him Greek Freak for a reason, but I think
even though the Greeks
they deserve some love in this conversation,
which is weird too, Mars. They that is weird.
Very racist. Not liking Giannis, but whatever. I forgot about Dr. J when thinking about transition players.
That's the guy that
I'll say top 5 to avoid the confrontation. Top 5.
That's the guy that I think about when I think about Giannis in terms of comparison. Remember, like when I talk about Anthony Edwards, I feel like that's Mitch Richmond, except a better athlete. That's what I think Giannis is. That's Doc, except bigger.
Yeah, Dr. J was very good. I forgot about him. My bad, Doc.
I got a super chat from Chris. He said 90% of losing weight or being in shape is diet. Shaq could be lazy with his diet.
Of course, we know this. What I think Stephen A. say loved his Big Macs.
Absolutely.
Shaq definitely ate a lot.
It was actually Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme too. I ain't mad at him. I love me some good Krispy Kreme too.
Shaq, no way you let Krispy Kreme take you down, big fella.
They're paying you $30 million to play basketball, though, Jalen. So
but I'm saying
you love it. You love it all you want.
He was eating this Krispy Kreme at Big Macs and still giving you 30 and 50, 30 and 20 in the finals. So I'm cool.
But that's what I don't.
Yeah, that finals competition needs to be.
I don't get about Ox calling Kobe a jerk, but I'm like, to me, it's like if we're doing this, if we're trying to win championships, and you eating Krispy Kremes out here, I might deck you for real. I think that's fair. I think that's game. I think that's fair.
I hear what you guys are saying between his finals competition and between 99 and 02, if that's his peak. Okay, I get it. Like, it might not have been the best compilation of centers, but Shaq played after 2002 and dominated. Shaq played before 1999 and dominated. Shaq played against Hakeem Olajuwon and dominated. Shaq played against Patrick Ewing and dominated. David Robinson dominated. We can keep going down the list. He played against a ton of great centers and dominated against those great centers. Shaq quite literally destroyed everybody you put in front of him. So I don't care if when he was at his best, the league wasn't at its best, because when the league was better, he was better.
There's a great argument for Shaquille O'Neal, and I'm surprised no one ever brought it up. It has to do with his Magic team beating a certain dynasty when they were just healing up.
And then people want to act like I said, like Jordan never lost. No, he lost that year.
He consistently reminded me that he was the only active player to beat Jordan.
Yeah,
he made that clear to me.
Amen, Penny.
Yeah, got swept the next year, but
mopped out the players.
Take your wins.
They came back
since they was winning NBA championships. I'm the only one to beat them. Remember that? I was like, I know that.
Hemi sent through a couple super chats. He said KG is vastly overrated. His skill set gets boosted by 100 XP every time he enters a conversation. Playoff offense suspect. Shoots threes worse than Giannis on less volume, but let some people tell he is KD. Power forward, AI.
AI. No one's never called him Kevin Durant. I'm sorry, bringing up KG's.
Whoever said that?
So hold on. The playoff thing too. Out of all the players we talked about at their peak, he had the worst team. At their peak, he had the worst team by far out of all the players we talked about on that list. So I think that's
the 1 year you got him Latrell Sprewell and
the 1 year,
Sam
the 1 year.
Sam Cassell gets hurt in the
He was hurt in the playoffs,
and he's forced to play point. Yeah, so he's had the worst situation out of all these guys in their peaks by far, and was still able to be the player that we saw him to be. Yes, his playoff, some of his playoff droppings are well known, but that also has to do with other teams realizing the teams that he had around him and could solely kind of focus on Kevin Garnett.
His flaws get exemplified as a scorer. I spoke about them. He didn't play with much physicality, didn't get to the free throw line a bunch, was much more willing to just shoot jumpers instead of trying to. Yeah, he was a finesse pick. Yeah. They were exacerbated by the fact they didn't have guys who can consistently generate elite offense beside him. So you need KG to be able to do those things. And because he's playing on the outside and on the perimeter, him shooting 42% on high volume mid-range jumpers is bringing down the overall offensive efficiency. And when he tries to scale up and become a much larger volume scorer, the efficiency takes a huge dip because he doesn't chisel out the easy opportunities like a guy like Tim Duncan or Shaq could, which is why I say offensively, as a scorer, he's a lot more limited than those guys, in my opinion. But everything else he does is a complementary playmaker, passer, processor, decision maker, running the floor in transition. He spaced the floor for the time. All of those things, I'm like, you put him in a better situation. He's like the perfect player. Do I think he can be the best offensive player on a high level playoff offense? Probably not. But I don't think Tim Duncan was the best offensive player on a high level playoff offense. So
disagree on that one. There was the first championship he was, but I believe he was their best
99?
offensive player.
I don't know if that was a high level offense. Though,
how good was the 99 Spurs playoff offense? Genuinely asking.
Not
so.
Oh, look it up.
Okay, so but they won a championship.
Yeah, no, they were. No, that's why I said because
I'm talking about a high level offense though.
Okay,
the Bucks. I'd say the Bucks in 21 won a championship, not a high level playoff offense. The Spurs won their championship because they were an extremely high level, all time dominant playoff defense. Their offenses were never high level. So even though they won, that doesn't mean you were high level.
That's why I want to get back to what you were talking about, Mars, when you talked about the Bucks being one of the worst offenses. That San Antonio offense in 99, I mean, they were winning games like 78-75. I mean, they were winning games like 81 to they were winning games like 81. They were holding teams to 70 points. They were holding teams to under 90, but they were barely scoring 80. So it wasn't like that this offense that San Antonio had in 90. I mean, they beat the Trailblazers in the Western Conference Championship. I believe in that game one, they beat them. I think the final score was like 78-75 or 79-78, something like that. That was their only lead in the game. That was it.
Every Spurs championship team was a number one net rated team. I think the first three at least were. I think the only one that didn't fit that is ironically the one everyone remembers, which is 2014. So those teams, whether they made up that differential defensively or offensively, they were the best team in the league when they won, which is to say they were supposed to win. I definitely think Tim Duncan could be the number one player on a really good offense. I just think, your number two better be pretty good.
Plus 0.9 relative offense in the postseason. And that's not very good for champions. The teams worse than them who won a chip is the 21 Bucks, who were a plus 0.5. Where are we going? We got the 04 Pistons, obviously. They were a negative offense. And that's it. So the 99 Spurs are the third worst offense of teams that won a championship.
Right. What about the personnel?
But the 03 chip?
Mm-hmm.
Now remember,
03, they were a plus 1.8, which isn't a high level playoff offense.
It's basically double what it was.
It's not a high level playoff offense.
In fact,
it's about as good as it's slightly better than the 19 Raptors playoff offense.
Now,
that's the fifth worst championship offense, I think.
Now remember, Penn, this is with a second year Tony Parker. This is with a rook in
Manu Ginobili,
and
a final year David Robinson.
Not your typical rook, in fairness.
A final year David Robinson. I mean, Steven Jackson, who was basically a journeyman at that time, right? Steve Kerr, who was over also.
Steve Kerr wasn't playing, but
he wasn't even getting
Steven Jackson had some big games though. Steven Jackson had some really
Speedy Claxton, Bruce Bowen, Malik Rose, those guys. Like they didn't have great personnel, and I'm just saying.
Guys that we're talking about.
Yeah,
If
Duncan.
y'all ever devote an entire video to like the greatness of Tim Duncan, please bring me on. I will beg to be on that show because honestly, like to me, it's like you could say what you want about everything that I said about Shaquille O'Neal does not apply to Tim Duncan. He did milk everything out of what he could be, in my opinion.
Sure.
Right?
That's fine.
He wasn't some sort of generational run, jump, whatever athlete. He just played the ankle super well. He took care of his body. He was a selfless teammate. He committed himself to winning. He didn't, over dominate anything. He didn't fuss about his contract at the end of his career. He didn't fuss about the lower minutes in order to maintain himself. I mean, everything was about winning. And you know what? No matter, I think he won 5 championships, right? Tim Duncan won 5 championships. Could have easily won 8. They were there. They were at that level, championship level, for like 14 years where they could have won a championship every one of those years. Them's the breaks. Sometimes you get an injury. Sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way. Sometimes stuff happens. You get to the finals, you lose, whatever. But I think that should be the model for every player. Tim Duncan should be the model for every single player. Elevate your teammates, let other people cook, let other people breathe. And some people hold it against him that even in his prime, that 2 other guys won Finals MVP. I mean, even Kawhi winning Finals MVP wasn't really in his prime, but Tony Parker won a Finals MVP in his prime. I don't hold that against him. I think that was him being a really smart and very good teammate and just caring about the winning. So to me, it's like Tim Duncan is up there, KG's up there, in terms of all the sacrifices he made. Rasheed is up there. Way down the list is Joakim Noah. He's up there. I love Joakim Noah. I love players like this. These are like my favorite all-time players, Bill Russell, because they don't care about the numbers. They don't care about the use. They don't care about taking like 8 shots, 10 shots, whatever. They're still a threat. But if you take it away from them, and that's why I love Jokic, because Jokic doesn't care if he takes 8 shots either. If you make it that he's a passer, he's going to be a passer. If you make him score 50, he'll score 50. It's just, I love people who play that way. It's the right philosophy for basketball.
I agree.
I just hate that we act like KG wouldn't have been awesome in the Spurs system, and like he wouldn't have potentially won 5 rings. Like they
needed Tim Duncan's isolation ability, and KG didn't have it.
Mars, I'm saying obviously they everything that Tim Duncan brought to the table was spectacular, nothing short of spectacular. But all I'm saying is, if you put KG in there, they're still winning championships. They still have Tony Parker being as great as he is, and he possibly could have been greater. So let's say,
how are you making Tony Parker as great as he is without Tim Duncan? You don't think that Tim Duncan
KG does the same with his teammates though? But KG makes his teammates better too.
So Tim Duncan made Tony Parker?
I don't say no. Tony Parker's parents made Tony Parker. What I'm saying is, you don't think that having a teammate when you're a 19-year-old kid coming out of France, right? You don't think the coach and your star player have something to do with the direction of your career? I beg to differ on that one, bro. It has a really big difference.
We just talked about guys that are sacrificial and guys that are great teammate guys and things like that. I would love to believe that Kevin Garnett is one of the ultimate teammates that we've ever seen in the league. I would love to believe that KG was an unselfish guy. I would love to believe that KG would light a spark under Tony Parker. Hey, he might have had Tony Parker out there playing defense better than what he was.
If social media was around during 2004, man, you have a completely different interpretation. All that stuff that you hear about Draymond Green punching dudes in the face.
Sometimes really that's intense stuff.
I've
been in a lot of locker rooms. Sometimes it takes a fight to turn a season around. Sometimes it takes you chewing a guy out for him to actually start playing.
I'm saying sometimes it takes a superstar player to allow himself to be coached like he's a role player, for every role player to fall in line.
I think KG was very coachable.
I think KG with Greg Popovich,
KG and Pop would have been
amazing. Shit. They would have done the same thing.
I have no idea if that's true. What I can tell you is that Tim Duncan was extremely coachable, and I do not think that you are not going to convince me in the rest of the time that we have in the show that KG was going to be able to absolutely run the same culture and have the same outcome for Tony Parker.
I'm not saying it would have had to be the same culture. I'm not saying it would have had to be the same team.
You said 5 championships. They won 5 championships with KG.
You just said they had potential to win 10 championships. So if we put Kevin Garnett in there for a 10-year stretch, they have a potential to win 5. Okay,
Well,
I'm okay.
Just
You
a
said he had the
different
potential.
five.
You
Ron
said
was saying it could be a different five.
You
They
said
could've
he
won
had the
differently,
potential.
too.
You said Tim Duncan had the potential to win 8. I'm saying over a 10-year stretch. I'm saying if you put KG in there over a 10-year stretch, he got the potential to at least win 5.
let me define
he got the other.
When
he
I
got
say
the other big
potential,
fella.
I mean you're there. You're at the dance. You're one of the top 3-4 teams.
He would have been at the dance.
A great defense. Well, you just heard what Mars said about their offense, right? You heard what Mars said about their offense. That the offense was pretty below average for a championship contender. Guess what? You replace Kevin Garnett with Tim Duncan, that offense gets worse, and that might be critical mass.
But I think you're not equating though his passing though. His ability to make his team better his passing.
Tim Duncan's a great passer too.
But the Spurs needed an ice because they needed an escape valve. They needed someone they could get the ball to, who not only would force double teams in the post, but could score consistently with easy looks at the rim. When Manu Ginobili hadn't ascended yet, and Tony Parker objectively just wasn't very good yet, and David Robinson was on the tail end, they needed that. KG wasn't that. KG was a complementary offensive player.
I think we're lying about KG's ability to get money on the block. I watched KD.
Ron, the problem that we have,
he could eat on the block.
He could score. It's about the way in which it's the pressure you're putting on the defense to do so. KG could score in the post, but it's different when you're scoring on the post on a variety of turnaround jumpers compared to backing someone down, getting 4 feet away from the rim, collapsing the defense, and scoring with baby hooks. That wasn't KG's game, but the Spurs needed someone who would put that level of pressure on the defense, not someone who was a tough shot maker. KG was a tough shot maker who did it at a very high clip, maybe the best clip in the league at that time for a 4. But they needed someone who could put that constant pressure on the defense, and KG wasn't that. That's why I say you could be just as good of a player or a better player than someone, but it's about your skills. It's like when we talk about, this guy's a great defender, this guy's a great defender, right. But you can be great defenders in different ways. Someone's a great screen navigator, someone's a great point of attack defender, someone's a great roamer. Just saying someone's a great defender, there's nuance to it. KG was a great offensive player, but he wasn't a great offensive player in the way that Tim Duncan was. And the way that Tim Duncan was a great offensive player was the way the Spurs needed him to be a great offensive player. So he just didn't fit as well. Now, could you build a different offense? Maybe. That's a whole different stuff.
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at.
2002. Y'all remember 2002 Spurs versus Lakers? Let me read you the 5 games that Tim Duncan played against the Lakers, in which the Spurs lost, mind you. 26 points, 21 rebounds, 27 points, 17 rebounds, 28 points, 12 rebounds, 30 points, 11 rebounds, 34 points, 25 rebounds. They still lost.
And Shaq has one of his most
30, 19, 26, 15, and
like
23.
Wait, so he took 26, 23, and 30 shots to win the game?
That was largely due to Duncan, too. But, Ron, I think one of the major problems I'm having here with your logic is you're talking about KG as a finished product. You're not talking about KG when he came out of high school, getting on that San Antonio Spurs team with Avery Johnson, with Sean Elliott, with David Robinson, with all of these guys. Greg Popovich is not going to use them like he used the finished product in Tim Duncan, who was much more polished, who was much better.
Duncan came in at like 22, right? 22,
right. He was much more polished. He was much more polished. He was much more refined than KG, who at that time, a high school kid, we're not building this thing around him. We're not doing that. Absolutely not. Now, I do understand, Ron, what he turned into. I do. And I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves could have done a better job in building around him. I think they did a terrible job. I thought they did a terrible job in building around him.
Maybe the worst job ever for
Yes, they did a terrible job in building around him. The problem, Ron, is Duncan was more refined. He was more polished coming into the league. And him getting on that crew in San Antonio as a kid during that time, I don't think he would have been used like that.
Chill. This is the second time you ran. This is the second time you ran to that. And my thing is, okay, you can say that, but first off, we're talking about a 10-year stretch, so I can take it because it's a hypothetical anyways. I can take any of the 10 years that I want to from KG. But if we want to stick along the same timeline, KG came in before Tim Duncan. He came in 96. By the 99 season when they got their ring, in 95. By the 99 season when they got their ring, KG was 20-10. Averaging damn near 2 blocks and 2 steals. So I like to think he would have been able to play next to the big fella. I like to think he would have been able to play next to Avery Johnson and all those other guys to make that happen. But what I do want to say is, even if they don't win it that year, we're talking about a 10-year stretch. So let's talk about the following year when KG gets better. Let's talk about the following year where KG gets better. Let's talk about his MVP year where he's averaging 24 and 10. Let's talk. Let's go down all of these stretches. when KD is arguably the best defender in the league or one of the best defenders in the league.
Right.
My thing is, let's even go to what Mars was saying too. We didn't really see Manu Ginobili get let off the leash the way he could have. So let's say that we are talking about, okay, we don't have the isolation score that we have with Tim Duncan because KG's not that. All right, well, Manu, do what you do best.
Sure.
Manu. Hey, Manu,
Manu,
we need 23 from you now. So maybe we see a different version of Manu. Maybe we see a different version of Tim Duncan. But my thing is,
Manu
with KG, it might look a little different. It might taste a little different. But, hey, a T-bone's a T-bone.
The result going to be similar. I can see
that.
They win in different ways. They win in different
That's a fair point. But
I didn't mean T-bone. I meant tomahawk. That's a tomahawk steak.
KG also gives those guys more space. Like Tony Parker as a driver, because Tim Duncan parking himself on the block, like it can just get in the way. And also, sometimes if it doesn't work out, you kind of run out of escape options on possessions. KG doesn't offer that because of his outside shooting, which was just undoubtedly better than Tim Duncan. So he can complement those guys in different ways. I just think.
Where are we talking about, Mars, in terms of his outside shooting?
Man, we played the
Duncan was good. He wasn't KG. Duncan was good.
He had a damn good mid-range game. He had a good mid-range game. He ain't have a KG mid-range game. Like, it was good. It wasn't KG. Like, levels.
Bro, we played.
KG ain't have a Dirk mid-range game.
We play the woulda, shoulda, coulda game, bro. Like, I mean, how many championships will LeBron have if he was coached by Phil Jackson his whole career? Want to play that woulda, shoulda game? He would have like 6 championships, 8 championships. Everything is, to me, it's like, okay, you deal with the hand that you're dealt. You know, you adapt differently. Tim Duncan was, tasked. He was a 4-year player coming out of Wake Forest. It's a completely different career. KG was tasked with a terrible franchise that had given away all their draft picks because of a scandal for Joe Smith. And them's the breaks, man. I mean, they're both great. I think, you could argue that KG in San Antonio, maybe it's not even the right fit for the market. Maybe he leaves. I don't even know. You know what I mean? Like, it's different. Like, like all those European kids coming in and whatever, it's a different, it's a whole international thing. It's a completely different style of basketball. How do we know? You can hypothesize, you say, yes, a 7-footer with great passing and great defensive instinct can plug in for Tim Duncan. But bro, like, I'm telling you, that culture was artifact by Tim Duncan. I know they gave the Spurs front office and the coaching staff a ton of credit, but they didn't win shit before him, and they ain't won shit since he left.
Sure.
Nothing. Now, Wemby's here and all that stuff, but that culture, I think Tim Duncan is very underrated in that regard. His numbers were never flashy. His game was never flashy. He was considered boring, but to me, he is like the epitome of great basketball player. So I'm not going to sit here and say that you could just plug in Jokic or plug in, Shaq or plug in anybody and you're going to get all the same results, because to me, all that nurturing, all that, all that building, all that stuff, it starts with your star player willing to be that humble, that coachable, and that's not something that I've seen in my lifetime, really. I cannot think of another player that did it to that level as him, because he was like the best player or one of the top 3 players
right from the beginning.
Absolutely. Never any pretension of like, I'm a number 1 pick. You got to treat me this way, whatever, family first, everything, all the dinners that he would host and stuff, like all the stories we've heard, from people who cover the Spurs and stuff. So he's just a great teammate, very humble, very workmanlike mentality, never any, off season,
any nonsense going on with him.
Exactly. And I mean, just totally disappeared for the NBA limelight. And that team took on his personality, man. They were him, and teams tend to do that. Teams take on the personality of the best player, just like, the Detroit Pistons took on the personality of that city and their best players. Right. So to me, it's like, and that humble approach, when you're an 18, 19-year-old kid, you come in. Tony Parker's career, do not tell me that 100 times out of 100 he ends up the player that he became. No, there's different versions of his career where he goes a completely different way, in my opinion. There's a lot of great players, where I think to them, and they're probably thinking to themselves sitting in Europe, man, if only I had been on that team, my career would have been different. If Drazen Petrovic doesn't get traded from the Blazers and goes to the Nets, you know what I mean? Like, this is before the time when it was popular to, have European star. You know what I mean? That was very unmarketable in sports business.
That wasn't.
There weren't any other guys, right? So Petrovic getting that big chance in for New Jersey, where else was he going to get that chance, right? So if you don't get the chance, then no one ever gets to see. And you could just hypothesize. You'd be like, oh, I saw this guy scoring 100 points in Croatia. He probably could have scored 25 points in today's game. People would be like, bro, look, he had 2 points per game. What are you talking about? He played behind this guy. He was a bum. That's my point, So I think Tim Duncan was a great player. I'm not on this.
Ron, you had a really interesting point about Tim Duncan in year 4. He was a 20-10 guy. Now, remember who we're talking about. The reason why I prefaced that point of Tim Duncan being more polished. Remember this San Antonio team. That was a playoff team before Duncan got on it. Sean Elliott got hurt. David Robinson got hurt. They were destitute when it comes to injuries at that point. I mean, that team was riddled with injuries. Add that to the fact, Ron, that at that time, guys coming out of high school were very disrespected. What's the main problem that we talk about with Kobe Bryant? Kobe Bryant sat on the bench with the Lakers. Why? It wasn't because of his game. It was because he was young and he was on a vet unit. So if you look at Tim Duncan as opposed to Kevin Garnett getting on that crew in San Antonio, we're talking about a vet unit. We're talking about a kid getting on that team as opposed to Tim Duncan, who at that point was considered a grown-up. I think the transition is way different. The reason why when he was in Minnesota, it was different, and why you talk about him being a 20-10 guy, well, number one, I'm playing for a team that in Minnesota was basically an expansion team. Number two, they were a young team. And as a young team, we have to have some sort of spark, which meant KG had to play. It wasn't a situation where KG was not going to play. He had to play. On top of that, they had to run everything through him. They wouldn't have looked at him like that with San Antonio. He would have been the kid that they were bringing along slowly. And with them bringing him along slowly, you could have very well screwed him up. As opposed to Tim Duncan, who at that time, guys going to school and coming out of school after 3 or 4 years, more polished, they were more apt to be more enthralled, more woven into the unit, as opposed to a guy like KG. That doesn't mean that KG would not have been awesome. I just don't think that you could just plug him in to that San Antonio team and get the same thing that you would have gotten that you did with Tim Duncan.
Chill. If they draft him,
Tim Duncan.
What does Stephon Marbury and Tim Duncan do in the U.S. Olympics? They play like a joke. KG and Stephon Marbury look good together. Let's keep it real. We don't know if Tim Duncan's personality and traits are going to mesh with a guy like Marbury. I just want to say, Tim Duncan in the Olympics, when he played with guys like AI, Marbury, wasn't really doing what was going on with that team. Where was all that culture? Where was all that leadership? Where was all that together? It wasn't there. It wasn't there with Tim Duncan and Team USA. But with the Spurs, who had Popovich, who I think was the leading spearhead, and yes, Tim Duncan was a big factor of that culture now too. But I think Pop, I might even give Pop more credit towards that and how kind of all the players led behind him.
I'm not gonna lie, Penn. He just cooked you with all that culture talk. Where was all that culture talk in the Olympics?
See, Ron's enabling again. Let's get
where was all that culture talk in the Olympics?
He's enabling.
He couldn't culture Stephon Marbury and Allen Iverson to an Olympic gold medal,
bro.
Instead, you know what? You know whose culture it was that took over the Olympics that year? It was Manu Ginobili. So maybe it's not too crazy to think that the culture started with Manu Ginobili. Maybe
y'all should start.
Maybe it was a balance of culture. Who knows? I don't know.
I'm telling you. I'm with that.
Jeez.
I'm just saying.
Hold up. He took the Argentina team, cooked Tim Duncan and America out of there.
Are we talking about the same Argentina team that he probably was playing with since he was 15 years old?
Hey, irrelevant.
Give me a break, yo. What are we doing right now? What's happening?
They could.
What the hell?
Shout out Luis Scola.
Yeah, they could.
All right, fellas, we do got to move on though because we got to talk about these summer league teams. I'm gonna just go ahead and say some of the matchups today. Some of the game, and I want to hear some of these games that you guys are looking forward to. And then we're gonna look at every single roster, see where some of the players land, and see who got loaded rosters and some of the guys that you guys are looking forward to. Right off the rip, though, first game of the night is the Cavs versus the Magic, and this is the Vegas Summer League. So this is the big one at the Thomas and Mack Center. Some of the games are at the Pavilion, but if you've never been to Vegas for Summer League, it's really a spectacle for real. It's really like basketball paradise. Also, and this game's on ESPN2 today, 5 Eastern time. You got the Pelicans versus the Timberwolves. I think this is going to be a very good game. I'm excited for this one. Then you got the Kings and the Grizzlies, and then you got drum roll, probably the game of the night. You got the Houston Rockets and the Los Angeles Lakers at 7:30 Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys obviously know this game is going to be spotlighted a lot. We'll probably end up talking about this on Monday. So that's another game tonight. Then you got the Brooklyn Nets and the Indiana Pacers. That will be on NBA TV. Next game. Now, I said this last game might be game of the night, but this is matchup of the night. Got the number 1 pick versus the number 2 pick. Sar versus Ricochet. The Hawks versus the Wizards. That's going to be a good game tonight, 9:30 on ESPN. Y'all definitely be sure to tap into that. And then the last game of the night, we got the Nuggets and the Clippers. How are we feeling about this schedule? And what are we looking forward to?
There's a lot of exciting things in pretty much all the games, like things that I find exciting anyway. I don't know every team summer league roster, but starting with the Cavs and the Magic, very interested to see if Anthony Black, I'm hoping they're all playing Anthony Black, Jet Howard and them. Very interested to see how Anthony Black looks. Not the biggest Jet Howard fan, so hopefully I can see him he's added to his game outside of just being someone who can shoot. I want to see him as more of a driver, someone who can make plays on defense. He's 6'8" and can't rebound. I just want to see, has he expanded his game? That's really what I'm looking for. Whether or not he goes 2 for 9 from 3 or 4 for 10, I know he can shoot. I want to see, has he expanded his game? Very interested for the Cavs to see how Emoni Bates looks. He said he's put on 26 pounds, I think he said. So interested to see how
pounds in what offseason?
over the course of the last year, not just on the offseason. But he said he's put on 26 pounds since he came in. I'm curious to see how he looks. Similar to Jet Howard in the fact, can he do other things outside of score? Can he make plays on defense? Can he compete on defense? Can he meet the physicality? That's interesting to me. The next game, I'll go to someone else. We'll talk about the games as they go. That's what I'm interested to see for the Cavs and the Magic.
The Cavs already played. They played the Magic earlier, and Bates didn't play in the game. So
yeah, but that was the not real summer league.
Okay.
Real summer league, I'm assuming he'll be.
Well, Mars, I'll just clarify for you.
Put the rosters in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
What'd you say, Pimp?
I just put the rosters in the chat for anyone who's curious to see what the rosters are.
Okay. Mars, I'm looking right now. Anthony Black and Jet Howard are both on the Magic. They're on the roster, so I'm expecting them to play tonight.
Emoni Bates is on the Cavs.
Okay. 26 pounds.
DJ Burns is on the Cavs Summer League roster.
Young big fella, right?
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting.
Okay.
That's gonna be interesting.
I think Evan Mobley played too.
Maybe Isaiah. Not Evan.
Yeah, it's Isaiah. I don't think Evan is.
If they put Evan Mobley in Summer League, that would be a wrap for Summer League.
Yeah, it's too early for him. Too early for him to come in. He might play maybe the last 2 games of Summer League, something like that.
Evan Mobley's going into year 4. He's not playing on Summer League.
Just saying, maybe last
he's not Jalen. He just got done playing in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's probably not.
He could. Jarrett Culver's
He would be the greatest player to ever play in Summer League. I think.
I guess year 4. You do see a couple guys. I guess some sophomores.
Forget year 4. He's a really good player.
Year 4 guys who are fringe keeping their job. Not Evan Mobley, who's a solid player. Like, no,
I hear you.
He was top 3 voted in Defensive Player of the Year last year. What are we talking about?
Yeah, Evan Mobley's
actually on.
He could work on his offense.
I don't think Evan Mobley played in Summer League in year 2. It's very rare for a top 5 pick to play 2 years in Summer League.
Fellas, I'm gonna throw these rosters on the screen, and we're gonna go through some of these rosters, and you guys just let me know who you guys are looking and seeing. We'll do this fairly quickly. Gonna try to get through all 30 teams, but this is what we're looking at right now in terms of rosters for the Atlanta Hawks. What do we like right here?
Kobe Buffkin's not playing. He got hurt.
Okay.
That's unfortunate. I really wanted to see Kobe.
What happened to him?
He got hurt in practice. I want to say shoulder, but I might be wrong.
Nikola Jurisic is an interesting player for sure. He was the 43rd pick in the 2024 draft. He's a guy who plays with the basketball. I think he's typically like the big wing playmaker who can handle pick and roll possessions that I think is going to really help. Zachary Ricochet, I think, is going to struggle in this setting. Frankly, I love him as a player, but I think he's going to play a lot better off of, a lead initiator like Trae Young than he's going to play off of whatever the heck they're running at point right now. And really, I think to anyone who's watching Zachary Ricochet versus Alex Sarr to see oh my God, this is the battle of the Colossus. Don't hold your breath. I don't think that's going to look like that at all.
Yeah, to add on to Penn, I think it'll be interesting to see, Zachary, whatever you want to call him. Zachary, yeah. So Zachary, how offensively he'll be kind of used. I mean, again, obviously with no Trae Young in this situation, no elite guard. Do they play the offense through him here? Is he going to get the ball in the post? Yeah, I just wonder, do they give him the ball in the post to see what he can do, maybe work on it, whatever the case is? So I think it'll be interesting to see offensively how he does in this.
I'm curious to see Jurisic in transition. That's what was impressive to me.
I would love to know if his name was actually Zakari, would he have been a more favorable prospect or a less favorable prospect? That's what I would love to know.
His name was
I mean, hey, a name with aura always helps your draft stock.
I do want to say I think he's going to get a lot of threes. I think he's probably going to average anywhere from 6 to 8 threes a night. So I'm curious to see how he shoots. Obviously, some indicator.
Yeah, he gonna get him up. Yeah, I think he's gonna get him up.
Yeah.
Summer league is tricky. Summer league is tricky because a lot of times on these summer league teams, more than half of these guys are not going to make the roster or get invited to camp. So, it's kind of a tricky gauge. But what you can't put a cap on is you can't put a cap on motor. You can't put a cap on effort, right? You can't put a cap on that stuff. So to watch Rasheed, I want to see if the goods are there. That's the thing that I'm looking for the most. Does he have the goods? We can figure out how to hone those goods, right? What I equated to, fellas, is I equated to the ingredients. Okay, we got all the food. We could cook the food later, but do we have all the food here that we need necessary to cook? And that's how I feel about this kid, Rasheed. When I see him, are the goods there? Does he have that motor? Will he compete? Will he back down when somebody scores on him twice in a row? Will he defer when necessary? That's the stuff that I'm looking for. But that's the stuff that I'm looking for from him in particular.
I want to see if he handles the physicality too, because he's slight, 6'10", 195, 200-ish. He's slight. I want to see how he meets physicality, the tempo of the game. Like, I'm not looking to see, because I know he can shoot, similar to Jet Howard. I'm not looking to see if he's making shots or not. Now, how he's getting his shots, are they put him in a more primary role just to see what his baseline is? Those are the things I want. I want to see how they use him, because I can already, like, you can somewhat see how they're going to use him in Atlanta. As like Quinn Snyder's obviously going to have him coming off curls and pin down. A lot of off-ball action for Rasheed. He's a great spot threat in transition. Trey's going to be quick to get the ball out. He's very good in transition. He can grab and go to.
He is very good in transition. That's one thing that we don't give him enough credit for that. That boy be running them lanes.
And he's a high effort defender, especially off the ball. For a young guy, he's switched on. So like those things are what I want to see. So
it's not usually
whether or not he can play for level.
It's not the best setting to see guys who are very, very attuned to organized basketball. This is like very, very pickup, in my opinion. Just some.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Penn. I'm not looking for training camp when he's actually going up against the better players.
What are you looking for? Dog? You looking for doggedness, toughness?
I'm looking to see the skill set. Is the skill set there? Is this going to translate? Right now, don't get me wrong. I know that it's a difference. Brandon Miller is a prime example. It's a difference with playing with the dudes you was playing with in the summer league and the guys that you were playing and playing with LaMelo Ball. It's going to be different playing with him. But I saw his skill set and thought, all right, when he get with LaMelo Ball, he's going to be a much better transition player. Not only is he going to be a much better transition player, he looks like he's going to be really good on catch and shoot, coming off screens, coming off pin downs, coming off curl cuts, because LaMelo Ball knows how to get and where to get him the ball. That's the stuff that I'm looking for with this kid, Rasheed. Where does he get the ball? In terms of him rebounding, can he rebound in traffic? When he gets the ball off the glass, what kind of decision maker is he? Now, again, I'm not looking for you to be Wemby or anything like that, but I'm looking to see if the stuff that's necessary to be successful, is it there? And if it's there, we can hone it.
Sure, I think to be there.
I think for me, like,
there, but it does. He's the number 1 overall pick, so
that's the mentality.
I don't want to hold him to the number
I don't either, Mars. But you
why,
are,
Mars?
Wait,
whoa! Why not,
bro?
Because I don't think every number 1 pick is created equal. I'm not going to expect from Rasheed what I expected from Wemby. I don't think that's fair to Rasheed.
And you should
a different profile, and that's a weird expectation because he went number 1.
Exactly. And unfortunately for him, the casual fan is going to hold him to the standard of a Wemby, of a Zion, of these guys. But there are differences in scale. There are number 1 picks that are, Wemby, Zion, Shaq. And then there are number 1 picks that are not anywhere near that player, right? Like Olawokandi, Kwame Brown, Andrea Bargnani. And unfortunately for Zachary Risachet, we can hope for the Atlanta Hawks that he'll be better than the three aforementioned players, but he's definitely more as a prospect on that level than he is on the previous level. And so don't expect him to come out like Shaquille O'Neal and, look like he doesn't belong in Summer League. He very much belongs in Summer League. What I'm saying is, like, what I would be looking for Zachary Risachet, number one, do you invite physicality? Do you get bumped off your spots too easy? Where's your level of conditioning and strength and training at this current moment? I suspect it will be far from where it's supposed to be in 4 or 5 years. Number two, is there something else to your game that we did not see in your club? Because they were playing to win, and they're not playing to develop, they're playing to win. This is not a basketball. And so, is there a little bit more of that playmaking stuff? I suspect there is more of that playmaking stuff. Will he have the opportunity to do it with a roster full of guys hunting for NBA jobs on the other 30 teams? I don't know. But typically, if he's not, I'm not going to hold an 8-point performance against him. I see a lot of overreactions to Bronny James and a lot of stuff, and that's a completely different situation because he may be a more primary handler. I don't hold any player who's playing 3, 4, 5 in Summer League. I don't hold their numbers against them. What I will hold against him is his compete level, his body language. These are the things that I care about on this level. I don't care that he comes out and scores 20. I don't care if they win basketball games. To me, it's like with him and Alex Sarr, both of them are going to be very dependent on other people creating offense for them. Neither one of them is going to be physically developed enough to dominate this level. They're both very, very underdeveloped physically. They have been drafted for the player they're going to be in 4 or 5 years with that dreaded P word, potential, right? It's not about who they are today. And unfortunately, they got to play Summer League today. They don't get to play Summer League in 5 years. So people are going to overreact. I tell you right now, one of these guys is going to put up a stinker. One of these guys is going to look worse than a guy.
We saw last year with Brandon Miller. We came on here last year.
Wemby's first game.
Yeah, we came on here last year with Brandon Miller with Wemby. There was people. I wasn't really that impressed with Brandon Miller when I first saw him. I didn't think that Charlotte had made a mistake, but I'm thinking he looks clueless out there. He looked lost. He did not look like he knew what he was doing. He did.
I thought Scoot was way better than Brandon Miller in the pre-draft cycle. I really did. I fully said
Scoot.
Okay.
Scoot. I said whoever picks Scoot over Brandon Miller is going to get fired. And I frankly look like an idiot right now. And I think I just have to take that L on this platform and on any other platform. I was wrong. Brandon Miller has looked awesome. His numbers finishing in college around the rim just didn't they didn't look great to me. But again, there are certain players where in college, they're not going to look great. In the international game, they're not going to look great. But the rule changes. The game changes, right? When you're talking about NBA basketball, playing off 4 other great players or good players, in the case of Charlotte, barely NBA players, but okay players, you're going to have more space to attack than you ever had in college. You're going to have more space to attack those gaps. And those longer athletes, they're the ones who are going to benefit. Those long-limbed athletes like Brandon Miller are going to have more space to finish. And he's not going up against Patrick Ewing and Alonzo Mourning inside. So he's going to have an easier time finishing in the paint too, especially with so many bigs playing 5 out. So I underestimated that part of it. It's a revision, but Zachary Risachet has a lot in common with Brandon Miller, has a lot in common with guys like that. Trey Murphy, I think of that archetype. If people can adjust their brain to this will look okay in 3 years, I think they'll feel better about it. And ditto for Reed Shepherd. Like if Reed Shepherd for the Houston Rockets is forced to be a primary initiator, you're not going to see his best qualities, frankly, as a player. And it's just, this is not the setting for some of these players, in my opinion.
Fellas, I'm throwing these rosters back on the screen. We're gonna go through these quickly. I'm gonna scroll through them. Give everybody a chance to just look at these teams' rosters. This is the Brooklyn Nets right here.
Tariq Whitehead, bro.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking forward to.
This roster might be better than their current roster.
Oh, that's crazy.
Garbage. Get Brooklyn off the floor. These dudes trash.
All right, man. Let's get all these guys NBA contracts. Let's see what they can do.
Get these.
I'm looking forward to seeing Noah Clowney too and Jalen Wilson. See what they do.
Tariq Whitehead is the most, because he was the number 1 ranked recruit coming in. Injuries kind of
Montverde Eagles, baby.
And injuries kind of derailed things, but he can shoot the ball. I just want to see where his level of athleticism is relative to where he used to be. If he can be dynamic, getting downhill, explosive, the Nets have a very high potential player because he shoots the ball very, very well. He's 6'7". He got good size for the 2/3. If he can get anywhere close to where he used to be prior to injuries, the Nets have they got a steal at what 22, 23, wherever they got him. So I'm interested to see how he looks just physically.
Are him and Cam Thomas just gonna both chuck 20 shots a game?
Yes.
Well, I don't know how much Dirk's gonna play, but Cam's gonna get him up for sure. I can promise you that.
For sure.
All right, y'all. This is the Boston Celtics right here. They have a very experienced team. We know the names of J.D. Davidson, Jordan Walsh, Killian Tilly, Anton Watson, Ron Harper Jr., Jaden Springer. These are guys that have been around for a while. Kata. Also, shout out Jalen House, too.
Killian Tilly is Tremaine's guy, right? The one he be training?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see him just for the connection. I'm interested to see him.
I'm trying to see if any of these guys make the rotation for the Celtics.
Yeah, Killian can go too.
Not likely, but Drew Peterson might be underrated here.
This is the Charlotte Hornets right here. They have a couple guys that they took in last year's draft. A couple guys from this draft too. You got Bryce McGowens, Nick Smith Jr. Know about Nick? We talked about him a little bit during last year's draft process. Leaky Black, remember him from UNC?
Leak.
I think KJ Simpson isn't playing. I think hamstring injury. I think might be wrong. Might just made that up.
Is Brandon Miller playing?
I think
why?
I know he's on the roster, but I don't know.
I was gonna say why would he play?
He might just be with the team.
I mean, it's possible he might go out there. Jabari went out there for a game. He might just go out there for a game, just do whatever. I'm interested to see Tijon Salon. Because I don't see it, so that's why I'm interested.
Is he playing?
He better be. Yeah,
I hope so.
Well, I mean, is he staying in France or is he coming over?
He's coming over.
He's coming over. All right,
number 6 pick. He better be coming over.
Yeah, I'm interested to see him because
he pulls a Franz Vasquez.
With that being said, I want to say he's probably the biggest question mark in all of Summer League. He was the biggest stretch, right? Or the biggest reach? Yeah.
Honestly,
in the lottery, yeah, I think he was the biggest reach.
I don't know how y'all feel about this, but I feel like the Spurs were targeting him at 8.
Yes.
And they traded off that pick because he went at 6.
Yeah. I do think
I wasn't high on him.
I'm so low on him. Like as a lottery pick, everything about him.
What I'm missing.
Everything about him is theoretical, but I haven't seen enough of the things that theoretically he can do to even tell me that that's theoretically possible. Like theoretically, he can shoot. His mechanics are weird. His footwork and balance is all over the place. He's just a confident shooter, but he's not particularly good. He's a terrible rim finisher, and he's high energy on defense, but his awareness is all over the place. I don't
even love his fluidity as an athlete. It's weird. Like I liken him to Obi Toppin a little bit, and not even on that level as an athlete. So to me, this is a very strange thing. And honestly, him going over Matas Bazelis, like if you're going for that player, just go for that player. He's a better version of that player, in my opinion. But let's see. Maybe I'm wrong, man. If the Spurs wanted him, and I mean, maybe.
I hope I'm wrong. I didn't get it.
Okay, so right here says Brandon Miller will only play in the Las Vegas Summer League. This is obviously the Las Vegas Summer League, so we will see if he suits up. Also, KJ Simpson did indeed suffer a hamstring injury during the pre-draft process and will miss all of Summer League, so we won't get a chance to see him. The Charlotte Hornets play against the Knicks tomorrow, so we'll get a chance to see Tijon Salon and everybody else on the Hornets, as well as the Knicks. Moving on to the Bulls. This is the unit that they're rolling out. Very excited to see my guy, my favorite prospect in this draft, Matas Buzelis. Who else on this team do you guys look forward to seeing, or is it anybody?
I mean, Julian Phillips, just to see how the jump shot looks, because that's the biggest issue with him is can he space the floor consistently? So, but everyone else, there's not really guys who I'm saying either I'm not fully aware of or guys who I'm really interested in. It's really just Julian Phillips and Matas, for no disrespect to everyone else. Just
they really have a lot of this not guys who were already drafted before or something. If you look at the names next to the Bulls, the guys on the team, they're all coming over from Europe. It looks like
this one I've already said. Amani and DJ Burns is who I'm interested to see. I feel Greg Porter is not he's got his role, but I feel like I know what I'm going to get with Craig Porter unless he has elevated in ways I didn't foresee. But I want to see if Amani can maybe not crack the rotation for the Cavs, but can he be a consistent player for the Cavs this year. And DJ Burns, I just want to see how he handles the speed of the game at his size.
Yes.
That's really what I want to see.
He lost a lot of weight.
I think he dropped like 25. I think he dropped like 25, 30 pounds. More. Yeah. Was it more than that?
Crazy. Yeah. But he's old.
That's what I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I don't think he lasts in the league.
Footwork is awesome.
I mean, even if it's in the G League, I just want to see.
You know, all the shit I talked about Shaquille O'Neal being out of shape, and I got a lot of love for DJ Burns and Kenny Lofton Jr. I don't even understand it. It's weird, but yeah, it's what it is.
Olivia Maxence Prosper for the Mavs. That's what I want to see.
Max. All right.
Yeah, I think he's definitely the biggest person on this roster that we need to see what he looks like in the summer league.
He might be able to get in the rotation next year just in terms of what he brings defensively, in terms of energy. If he, once again, transition, that Josh Green spot, Omax can fill that void and, in fact, could probably do things better than Josh Green could. So if he can be a consistent floor spacer at his size, they need size on the wing. So I think Omax is playing his way into the rotation for the Mavs this year.
Whenever I see guys from places like TCU, I just think hard-nosed and tough guys. So I'll be interested to see this kid Miller and what he brings.
Now, this is an interesting roster.
Moving on to the Denver Nuggets, I see Julian Strawther. He's the first name that jumps out. Who else we seeing, fellas?
This is interesting. They got to find a replacement. They got to find a replacement for Pope. I mean, they said they want to pay Watson in that role, but they got
Jameer Young
to really play a role like that.
100% Jameer Young. First team All ACC last. He didn't get drafted. First team All ACC. I think he was one of the 3 guards in the country to average. I think he was in the top 10 in the country in scoring. Something crazy.
I mean, did he not?
Not in the country. I'm sorry. In the ACC, I think he was 3rd in the ACC in scoring. I think he averaged 6 assists.
Yeah, that's big time.
Yes, I think he averaged 4 or 5 assists, not 6. 4 or 5 assists.
He was a 5th-year senior. He's a 5th-year senior. That's why they
Jameer Young.
Yeah, it was and size too.
Yeah, size. Okay.
This is yeah.
We'll see. The Detroit Pistons. Obviously, you got Ron Harlan Jr. Marcus Sasser. That's another one that jumps out. Who else do you guys see that you like?
Honestly, I'm shocked that Asar Thompson's not here. Just personally,
he should be here. 100%, he should be here.
I agree with that. Yeah,
he's fully recovered from his little blood issue. He's fully recovered.
Thompson had a blood issue. I did not.
Yeah, that's why they shut him down at the end of the season. He had like blood clots.
Oh damn!
I did not hear that. That part I did not.
Yeah, that's why I don't know if is he cleared to play. Genuinely,
maybe that might be the reason why he ain't on the roster. Because I'm sure that he probably would have played.
Yeah,
he's
Ron Holland. Ron
Holland.
This
is Ron Holland and Marcus Sasser and not much else.
I want to see Bobby Klintman because I'm interested to just see what he brings to an NBA floor. But
Pods, move on from these older dudes, Golden State. Start building around these younger guys. The window for you to win an NBA championship is closed.
Hey, stop hating, man. Steph Curry got one more.
They still got Steph out there.
They still got a top 5 player, arguably in the league.
Pod should dominate. Pod should dominate.
There are 2 very legitimate NBA players and one very legitimate NBA prospect here. Guy Santos is really interesting as a player to me. Very underrated. Brandon Pajimski and Trace Jackson Davis. I mean, they could be starting for this team very soon. So, I mean, what are we doing here? This is crazy.
I see Pat Spencer in somebody every year.
Shout out Ethan Thompson too. He was balling out in the California Summer League. I expect him to do the same. This team was very good in the California Summer League. They looked impressive. Obviously, B-Pods was putting in actual NBA minutes and was starting actually last year. Same for Trace Jackson Davis. He's actually starting. Is it safe to say that the Warriors won their draft last year with these 2 guys?
They didn't win their draft. They had like an all-time draft. It's like I don't even know what's above winning. Like I can't believe that they got these guys where they got them. It's insane.
They had about as good of a draft as they could have had.
Yeah.
They picked the best player on the they picked the best player on the board literally at every single spot. You can make a case for Cam Whitmore over Brandon Pajimski, but I won't. So yeah, I mean that's hard to do.
I got too mixed up, Ron. Because apparently Spencer I didn't know his brother played for Memphis. I thought they was the same dude. I was bugging out because they do look alike.
This whole team is interesting.
This is another stacked roster.
This whole team is interesting. N'Faly Dante from Oregon. If he can stay healthy, I like him. Cam Whitmore was the Summer League MVP last year, and he's still here.
Yes, he was.
Like, AJ Griffin,
back Morris?
hopefully. AJ Griffin was a steal. I don't know how we managed to get him for the 44th pick. AJ Griffin is a very, very good player.
They didn't know what they was doing with him in Atlanta, Mars.
Very,
no
very
idea.
good.
They had no idea what they were doing with him down there.
He put up some
I would have traded a first-round pick for him. I would have traded.
Griffin put up some really good numbers.
If AJ Griffin was a prospect in this year's draft, he goes in the lottery. And we got him for the 44th.
Bro, he should have gone in the lottery the year they didn't.
He's better than Reed Shepard.
Just context. The last mock draft that I saw prior to the 2022 draft, most mock drafts had him top 10. He only fell because of injury concerns.
My issue with AJ is you guys got a log jam at the forward spot. So you got a bunch of 6'7" and 6'8" guys at the forward spot. So I'm thinking to myself, where does he separate himself? Maybe Houston might not be the right fit. I ain't saying that it isn't. I'm just saying that maybe it might not be. Because you got Cam, you got Jabari, you got Tari, you got a bunch of 6'7", 6'8" guys at the small forward spot. So he may get caught in the log jam in Houston. At least they would know what they were doing with him. I think that's the difference. Because in Atlanta, he wasn't even caught in the log jam. They had no idea what they were doing with him.
Here's the beauty of asset management. If they end up trading 3 guys, guess what? They have people to promote. That's the beauty of Houston's entire roster, is that you got depth on depth on depth on depth. You got depth at the third string, the second, and the first string, which means you can consolidate. That's the beautiful thing. That's what we saw the Toronto Raptors do in 2019. They made 2-for-1 trades twice, and they still ended up deep because they had actual depth at spots 11 and 12. Norman Powell was the 11th guy. Can you think about that? Norman Powell was the 11th guy. That's where he was in the roster. That's what I'm saying. Like, good teams, they stack depth later in their roster. And you know what? If AJ Griffin pops for the Houston Rockets, that's an asset. That's an asset on a very cheap contract. And under team control. By the way, under team control, yes, he is 20. He was very young. I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he had a really good rookie year and a really trash sophomore year last year. He is a defensive liability, though. I will say that.
Oh yeah,
his defense.
His second year was hampered by some issues off the court, and then he never got back in the rotation. It was a lot of things went wrong. But the player the shooting ability to drive off a closeout, he's actually showed some flashes of playmaking, which I really liked, especially in college. So like, if he can sneak in the rotation, because we need to shoot him, get him Reed and AJ.
He's a really smart player too. He's a really smart player. You know, he beat the Raptors with a buzzer-beating alley-oop. I remember that, where he got behind the defense and Scotty Barnes and OG Anunoby looking at each other like, what? And Trae Young just floated it on top of him. He's a really smart player and honestly bucket getter, like shooter, underrated playmaker. I really like AJ Griffin. I'm wishing
great
him
feel for cutting too. Great feel for cutting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm high on the Rockets. They're one of the teams that I think have an actual shot of winning the summer league. Let me scroll.
We didn't even talk about the top 3 pick, Reed Shepard, but
yeah, we didn't talk about Reed Shepard because Jalen a hater, but it's cool.
I just think his ceiling is Grayson Allen. He's not bad.
All right, cool. Who cares about his ceiling? He's the best shooter in the draft. I don't care about his ceiling.
Grayson Allen.
I don't know who you guys think Reed
Shepard's
going to be. I really don't think who you guys think Reed Shepard's going to be.
Jalen, he's going to be who he's going to be, an elite shot maker.
He's a defensive playmaker. He's smart. He competes. He shoots the ball better than anyone in the draft, considerably. Like, the only issue
he steps in the league as one of the league's best shooters. He steps in the NBA as one of the better shooters in the NBA.
He's a better shooter than Dalton, easily.
Yeah,
Seth Curry,
and he shoots it deep. That's the difference.
He shoots from NBA.
Oh, he does stretch the defense.
He shoots it crazy. And
he shot 50% from 3 at Kentucky.
Yeah, that is
right. Hold on, but then if you go look at
Kentucky guards notoriously struggle. Kentucky guards notoriously struggle in Kentucky and then blossom in the NBA. This is one Kentucky guard who did not struggle at Kentucky. So,
but that means he's going to struggle in the NBA.
I was going to say,
or if you buy in the other way, which is to say that the system that they run in Kentucky is notoriously difficult for guards to run, you can make a case that he is just that damn good. And maybe we look back on this 3 years from now and say he really was the best player in this draft, and that wouldn't surprise me one bit. Frankly, this draft has a lot of holes.
I'd be shocked.
I would be flabbergasted, but I'm here.
I would be shocked too, but I'm saying like I see an upside of a better Fred VanVleet, and that is a very good player.
Very good. Jalen, you don't just shoot 50% from three on high volume.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, against SEC defenses, college defenses, bro, that's unheard of.
I mean, I
don't know. Chill. Do you know anybody that's done that? Like ever?
No.
50% from a season. I don't care if it was your junior season. I don't care if you were a super duper senior. I don't care if it was your 6th year. Is it anybody? Chat, please let me know. On the attempts that he shot, I don't know exactly how many it was. I'm assuming it was 3 or 4. On 3 or 4 threes per game. Do you know anybody that shot 50%? Getting the looks he was getting too. He wasn't shooting catch and shoot threes. He's off the dribble, coming off pick and rolls, transition threes. He shot. It was a wide mix of threes. Jalen, I get it. Jalen, I get it. He's 6'2", and
undersized.
He doesn't really got too much melatonin in his skin. I understand.
Melatonin is crazy. Melatonin is wild.
Oh, my bad, melanin.
But that's why he made the
really
comparison, right? That's why he made the comparison, though, right?
I've seen players of that. What's the word? I don't know.
Skin tone.
Players of that type of again, the Jimmer Fredetts of the world, the Grayson Allens of the world. I mean, Seth Curry in some ways.
You gonna say a black person?
The Kwame
Seth
Browns
Curry.
of the world, the Michael Olukandis of the world, bro. Busts come in all shapes, all sizes, all ethnicities.
Oh no, for sure.
Bro.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I just thought the reach up to try, and I also think Houston has a lot of pieces. I wonder how he fits on this team. They just have a lot of guys.
He might not play a lot right away.
That's what I'm saying too. Yeah, he might not.
Cam Whitmore was in the G League.
Hey,
bro said melatonin meant melanin. That's hilarious.
They're overall picking the G League.
My bad, I meant melanin. Y'all know what I meant.
I think it's possible Reed is in the G League. I don't think that's a crazy question.
Y'all got melatonin when it comes to Reed because y'all sleeping on him. All right, I was getting at y'all. Hey, too much melatonin on Reed.
Great recovery.
The third overall pick in the G League.
Elite recovery.
You got to put him in the G League.
Amen was in the G League last year. He was the 4th pick.
I hear you, but damn.
No, that's because he came back from injury. But hey, that doesn't help my agenda. Amen was in the G League.
All right, what I'm trying to tell you is Jalen. He might start in the G League, but what you gonna do when you put him out there and he starts smacking him threes?
Yeah, we'll see if
I'm the Trailblazers. I'm sorry, Mars.
33%
I'm sorry, Mars. If I'm the Trailblazers, I'm raiding your crew. I want Cam Whitmore. I think he's a star. I don't think Cam Whitmore.
Why would we give him to you?
Yeah, hand him over. Because hand him over, Mars. I think he's a star. I do.
Is Whitmore your 6th man this year?
All right, we got to talk about Ron's Indiana Pacers, man. You know he's
Jarris Walker,
Jarris
Walker, everything Jarris Walker, all of it Jarris Walker. That's I don't. Ben
I love Jarris Walker.
Jarris Walker.
Hold on, Johnny Furphy.
Jarris Walker.
Respect Johnny Furphy.
Jarris Walker.
Definitely Jarris Walker, but I'm excited.
Jarris Walker is going to be a key part of Indiana's rotation next year. Jarris Walker is going to be a key
I'm surprised to see Ben Shepherd here, but that's good for him. Oscar Tshiebwe, former player of the year, be interesting summer league for him. I think you start.
Do you guys remember the guy that I was telling you? The guy that I was telling you about from Akron,
Enrique Freeman.
I'm telling you, man.
He's one of them ones.
Pay attention
here
to my guy.
Yeah, he's there.
Enrique Freeman.
Number
Force
8.
him down.
Mm-hmm.
And Tristan Newton.
Okay.
National champion, baby.
He's real raw, Ma. He's real raw,
right?
This team is underrated as hell. This is a good team.
He's real raw. He's the kind of player that what I was talking about, like you see it, it just needs to be honed and it needs to be developed. That's who Enrique Freeman is. And the motor isn't even a question. I just want to make sure that you remember this, Jalen. He was a walk-on at Akron. He didn't get a scholarship. He was a walk-on at Akron. Yep. Played 4 years, led the conference in rebounding. I think he's the all-time leading scorer at Akron. And there was no questions about his motor. The other stuff, I feel like we can develop it. I think he was a steal where he is.
Low key, I think the Pacers might be the favorites to win.
They're
a really good team, man. Tristan Newton plus Oscar Tshiebwe to me is a summer league championship when you add Jarris Walker and Ben Shepherd to that. That's a crazy team. It's a good team.
Tristan Newton.
That's what I said. Tristan Newton and
Damn, no Brandon Boston on the Clippers G League.
This Clippers roster looks a little meh.
Depressing.
Why do I keep hearing who is Brandon Boston?
You don't know BJ Boston?
Highly
Who-
touted recruit
Christie
coming
could
out
be
of high
alright.
school, and it just didn't
Work out.
click for him.
Didn't they have a Brandon Boston when I was coming up? Brandon, what was his name? That was with KG?
Brandon Boston is a Brandon Boston Jr. Yeah.
I know I ain't losing my mind over here. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't they have a Brandon Boston on that crew years ago?
It's probably his son, yeah. But this is the Los Angeles Clippers team. You see Cam Christie, they just signed him to a good contract. You got Kobe Brown out here. Anybody
That's
else?
the Kobe Brown that was in. Wasn't he with the Hawks? And the Hawks were very reluctant to give him up.
No, he got drafted to the Clippers last year.
Okay,
I could sell myself on the
about a different
downline
Kobe.
potential of Musa Diabate, but that's about it.
I need to see if Cam Christie can do anything inside 15 feet. That's what I need to do. Can he do anything close to the basket? That's what I'm looking for.
Shout out to Mark
He's a
Bailey
long
too.
ball
He's
shooter.
out here. Let's see if he can
Shoot
have
the
a good summer
basketball.
league.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, we've got to you guys' favorite team, the Los Angeles Lakers. We have already seen them play in the California Summer League, but you know some of these names: Dalton Connect, Bronny James, Maxwell Lewis.
Blake Hinson is going to be interesting. Just how he shoots the ball, and that's going to be interesting.
I predict they will
Dalton-
lose.
Yeah, I don't think they're a very good team. Interested to see how Dalton's tertiary aspects of his game are. I buy the jump shot. I buy the scoring mentality. Can he be anything other than a liability defensively? Can he justify getting minutes on the court for a good team or a team that's trying to compete? That's what I'm interested to see. Does he do the other things? Because I know he can. I know he can shoot, but is JJ Redick going to play someone who can only shoot? Because he's not going to get the on-ball reps that he did for Tennessee. And Bronny,
He should be coaching.
That's for you to say. And Bronny, I just want to. I don't really have that much expectations. I just want to see how he plays. I'm not going.
Just hustle on defense.
I'm not going in there with much expectation. I just want to see how he plays.
Man, Bronny, be the top 5 prospect that you were meant to be.
If he competes at a high level, whether or not he's making or missing shots, ideally he makes.
His motor is never the question. The motor's going to.
Yeah, he competes. I just want to see.
Yeah.
He competes and he plays the game, quote unquote, the right way. But I just need to.
I do think Moses Brown.
I get stressed when
Moses
people say
Brown,
Bronny
not so
James top 5, bro. I just get stressed.
You think you get stressed? Did you see the conversation we was having with this dude getting my blood pressure up? I was trying to chill.
I did.
That's a good conversation.
Scrub it from the internet. Scrub it. Never happened.
This is the Memphis Grizzlies. We've seen them play in the summer league already this summer.
I feel like we've seen these guys play in the NBA too, like the whole last season.
G.G.
Hey man, Zach
Jackson.
Edey screens. That's what I'm here for. Zach Edey
G.G. Jackson, Scottie Pippen Jr.
Freddie
We don't talk about
Gillespie
Scottie
had
Pippen
like
Jr.
a couple
nearly as much
Yeah,
as we
nah.
did. That
I
dude is a
think-
damn good player. The Lakers screwed him up, yo.
He is. I think he's good.
The Lakers made a mistake on him. Like that dude is a legit NBA player.
He just ain't getting enough
He
opportunity.
didn't. He did not, Mars. He should. I definitely think he's a legit rotation player in the league. Legit.
Zach Edey might be better than I thought. Maybe his game might actually translate better. Than
Jalen, you told me
Memphis
before the
was
draft
perfect.
that you thought that he was you and this dude right here told me he was Taco Fall.
Bro,
I thought he was slow-footed. I thought he was slow-footed.
Refresh. Do not put me on that list. I firmly turned around on Zach Edey well before the draft. I said he was the top 13 pick in the draft, and I stick with it. You will not hold me to what I said in April and March. I don't.
I thought he was going to
I did say if there was a team that made sense for Zach Edey, Memphis was the one. So I think he went to the right situation. So this is where I think he can get maximized.
I would have dug him in Toronto too, to be honest with you.
I would not. I'm happy.
We got the Miami Heat fellas. We've seen them play as well.
Khalil.
Yep. Shout out Khalil Ware. He's been balling so far. I'm eager to see what it looks like in the Vegas Summer League as well. But
Keyshawn Johnson is interested.
Yes, Mars. Yes.
Keyshawn Johnson is interested.
Yes,
Very
he
interested.
is.
I ain't seen someone.
Spoelstra's going to make one of these guys a key piece somehow. I have to figure out who.
And also Josh Christopher, just because
Rockets.
just because
just shout out Jay Gut.
I really dig this kid, Keyshawn. Yes, I do. Super duper athlete. Yeah.
Ridiculous athlete. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, the Milwaukee Bucks.
Get Milwaukee up my crew.
AJ Johnson.
Yeah, man. Hey, we get to see the steal of the draft, man. Hey, big 7-7s, man. We get to see the steal of the draft from the Illawarra Hawks. The
Steal
number
of the
23
draft is
pick,
crazy.
AJ.
Hey, 3 years. You have 3 years.
They have a lot of guys I actually want to see. I want to see Tyler Smith. I want to see
Tyler
Marjon.
Smith.
I want to see Ajax.
And by the way, since we're on the subject of the nepotism, go down a little bit to number 42.
Right here.
Yeah, go down to number 42. I'm sorry. Who is that?
Vin Baker, Bucks legend. Yes, sir.
Vin
Yes,
Baker
sir.
Jr.
I got my kid on the summer league squad. Now, what happens if his kid ends up making the crew? Because I didn't even know he had a son.
Mars,
know
Bucks
that.
legend. You see who that is right there?
Yes, sir.
You see who that is?
I did not know that.
Yeah, man. Shout out Vin.
I heard
Vin
Baker
Baker
Jr. going to stand next to Thanasis.
Hey, wow.
They could be the nepotism crew.
Y'all see Ty Washington for the Bucks too?
The only
I like
Kentucky
that
guard
guy.
that hasn't panned out. That's unfortunate, man.
Not yet.
All right.
Not yet. We're still holding our hope.
We shall see what the Milwaukee Bucks look like. Very interested to see AJ Johnson, though. All right, here we go with the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is a damn good team that we're gonna be. We're definitely gonna have a lot of eyes on this.
Leonard Miller. Mm-hmm. That's all.
Joey Wieskamp, one of the best shooters in college
Rod
basketball.
Dillingham. Some people say what best scorer in the draft. Some people say
Daishan Nix is there. Oh my god.
Alaska represent.
nice little team here.
Also, I'm eager
Josh
to see
Minot.
Jalen Clark, and I'm definitely eager to see Terrence Shannon Jr. I think Terrence Shannon Jr. is gonna go ballistic this summer league.
Who's the best player on this team?
I think Rob Dillingham. It's Rob Dillingham, then Shannon.
I'm gonna say Josh Minot and take the
wow.
L if I'm wrong. I love
Josh
that kid.
Minot?
He's great.
Okay.
Shannon's
I wouldn't be surprised if it's what Mars said, Leonard Miller.
If that nonsense ain't going on, Shannon's a top 10.
Oh shoot, I forgot about Leonard Miller.
That's true. Shannon, he had that.
I don't know about top 10, but he higher for sure. I don't know about top 10 because the age once again. But Leonard Miller's who I want to see because Leonard Miller going in the second round last year was ridiculous to me. So I'm curious to see how he looks.
This is a really good. This is a really good summer league team for a team that just went to the Western Conference Finals.
For sure,
that's crazy.
They could be trash in the summer league though. Leonard Miller could because they got young guys.
Leonard Miller is like he should have been a first round pick last year. He's a good player. Like he's an NBA player. Like you got 1, 2, 3. You got at least 4 NBA players on this team.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got 5. 4 of these guys.
And Terrence Shannon is 23. So like,
yeah, you think 4 of these guys make the roster? Like Rob Dillingham makes a roster.
Terrence, Leonard Miller.
That's 3.
Josh Minot is making this roster.
Deshaun was on the playoff roster last year. He wasn't suited
we're
up.
not. Daishan Nix is not an NBA player. Daishan Nix is not an NBA player. I'm sorry.
Now, wait a minute, Mars. Not an NBA player like Killian Hayes. Not an NBA player, or not an NBA player yet.
Right now, he's not an NBA player.
Okay, because those two things are not the same.
I'm not going to say what he can or can't be, but right now,
he was on the roster. Daishan Nix was on the Minnesota Timberwolves.
He was, yes, he was. He was also
we're going to see a few of these players on that.
And he was immaculate vibes throughout. Even though he was in street clothes, he was always rooting his guys on.
Hey, every game,
that boy was dripped out.
Every game needs
dripped
out.
Every
That's what you need to do if you're the 15th guy. You need to give energy.
Bring some
Jordan Hawkins, and Eve Messi is who I want to see here. Antonio Reeves too. Antonio Reeves. I want to see Antonio Reeves.
Messi, one of my favorite prospects, is going to foul out in 4 minutes, but I'm here for it.
Is it not 10 fouls? He's still going to foul out?
10 fouls in 4 minutes. But bro, I love Eve Messi. I really wanted him on the Raptors. I think we got another Baylor player. Obviously, our front office prioritized another guy, but I love Eve Messi. I'm going to stand by it. I think he's going to be a lot better than people think. All defense, no offense right now. Not the greatest paint finisher. Good shot blocker. Really foul prone. Not much of a playmaker. Jordan Hawkins, ironically, was also the guy I wanted last year instead of Grady Dick. I love Jordan Hawkins at UConn. Thought he was fantastic. He is way too good to be playing in Summer League. Way too
Jordan
good.
Hawkins can easily lead the Summer League of scoring.
Easily.
Mars, you was big on him coming out of UConn.
I thought he was the best shooter in the draft last year.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but
he
was worse defensively than I expected last year, though. I thought he'd be better defensively. So hopefully he's worked on that for this year.
We got the New York Knicks right now.
Respectfully, there's not really anyone.
Oh, they got Rokas Jokic. Okay, shout out Rokas.
Yeah, no disrespect. There's not anyone I'm like uber interested in. I want to see if Daddy A can do other things other than be a shot maker. But
Dwayne Washington Jr. Is that Pearl's son? I wonder if that's his son.
Kevin McCullough can be interesting just to see how his jump shot looks. But
Alex
Yep.
O'Connell back in the summer league.
I think Kevin fell way too far for a two-way prospect of his level.
yeah, I expect 56.
56 is crazy. I had him top 50, top 45.
All right, y'all. This is OKC.
Dylan Jones.
OKC.
I was trying to tell people about Dylan Jones. So Dylan Jones. Usman Jang, I think this is his last year before we put him in the Bruno Caboclo 2 years away from being 2 years away.
Bruno's lighting it up for Brazil, by the way. I just want to put that out there. That dude got trolled. He's amazing. He played
I do think this is
Bruno-
Usman Jang's last year before he gets put in just that bracket.
Does anyone make the roster here?
Yeah.
Well,
maybe
Dylan Jones is
Yeah,
going to be on their roster.
Other than him.
Usman Jang is probably going to be playing a lot of G League next
Yeah, I'd
year.
imagine him G League. I don't think
AJ Mitchell could be on their roster next year. I don't expect anyone.
I could only see one person. I could see it just being Dylan Jones.
But yeah, I'm very interested to see.
So
They're
got
not
six
waiving.
guys.
They're not
There
waiving
we
a
go.
former 11th pick.
Yeah,
after
that
2 years. That
he's
would
probably
be
going to be in
very,
the G League. I'm just hoping he
very
can figure
weird.
it out.
And also, they can't. So they're either going to trade Usman Jang at a low contract value after they just traded Josh Giddey. I see it.
All right, here's the Orlando Magic. They have 3 lottery picks right
They
here
got
at the
a
top.
spot.
Anthony Black, Jack
No,
Howard, and
Tristan
Tristan De Silva.
18.
Tristan De Silva wasn't a lottery pick. He was 18.
Oh, well, I mean, you kind of
Close. He's close, yeah.
I want to see if Jet, because I wasn't high on Jet, like I said, but if he can do anything else other than shoot the basketball, there's at 6'8", there might be, because Orlando needs spacing. He just has to be able to justify being on the court for other reasons.
He can handle the rock. He can handle the basketball.
But then his decision making is erratic. He doesn't really collapse it either. He doesn't do anything below the 3-point line. He's just a lot of concerns with Jet. I just
To
don't
me,
like
if you're a lottery pick in your second year at Summer League, you better look like you don't belong in Summer League, or we are very much bringing out we're bringing out the bus talk right now, because like to me, your season ended 4 or 5 months ago. If you were on a lottery team, your season ended probably 6 months ago. At this point, pretty much, you were like ready to prepare. I mean, maybe I'm getting enough. As a 3 months, 4 months is a long time for a young player to develop a little bit. I need to see these guys coming in stronger, and you need to take your career seriously. Because if you're playing, to me, it's like if I'm a player in my second year, I don't care if I was on a lottery team. If I was a second-year player playing in Summer League, I'm taking that personally.
That's how I look. That's how I'm looking at Usman Jang. He's going into year 3.
We got to get through the rest of these teams here fairly quickly. This is the Philadelphia 76ers. We've talked about them already. You've seen Ricky.
Are they going to play zone in Vegas Summer League? That's what I'm looking for. That's
the whole game, by the way, Mars. Not some of the games.
They're playing zone the whole game.
Someone signed Jeff Doughton Jr. That dude is awesome. He's great.
The Phoenix Suns right here. Anybody that sticks out to you guys? Got Ryan Dunn, obviously.
And also Godara too. I want to see how they use him, because he's like undersized as a 5, not much of a rim protector, but the playmaking, the feel, the IQ. Like, I want to see how the Suns are able to use a player with his skill set, because it's unorthodox. I want to see how they maximize him, in my opinion. That's right.
They got David Roddy out there too. I expect David Roddy to go ballistic.
They have no depth on that roster. They need those 2 guys to work out for them.
Portland Trailblazers, Chris Murray, their first-round pick from last year. Ryan Rupert, he had a pretty good season for him this year. Those 2 guys are on there. Obviously, Donovan Clingan. The number 7
Henderson
draft
was a surprise. Just
that is surprising.
Yeah, that is a surprise.
I was surprised to not see Scoot. I expected Scoot to be in Summer League. I don't know if it was a mutual decision.
I don't know if you maybe worry about the confidence of a number 2.
I think that's exactly.
I mean, like Brandon Miller's there, so you should definitely be there.
I mean, I've seen Jabari in Summer League last year, even if it was for a game.
Shaden should be there too, Mars.
Yeah, I can understand.
Shaden
I don't even know
let's bring the whole team down. You know, Portland Trailblazers. Y'all in the Summer League.
We've seen the Kings already, but some guys, some
Isaiah
notable guys.
Scoot should be playing in. Scoot should be playing in this, and Shaden Sharp should be playing in this, no doubt.
I think Isaiah Crawford is very underrated, a very interesting player, and Adonis Arms lit it up.
Yeah, no disrespect to Adonis Arms. I don't know who he was, but I watched him play against the Lakers. Jesus,
he was cooking. He was
Jesus.
for sure.
So who he is, real quick, Ron, and I know we got to keep moving. Adonis Arms, he played a year at a Division II school in Idaho, and he left there and went to Texas Tech. And the reason why I know that is because my buddy was the assistant coach at the Division II school that he went to. That's how I know him.
Shout out to Adonis Arms. Yeah, he was sweeping against the Lakers.
All right, we got the San Antonio Spurs. We have seen them so far too, but you obviously know number 4 pick, Stephon Castle. We're definitely going to pay a lot of attention to him. They got a couple other intriguing prospects.
Sidi Sissoko is interesting. No Wemby, man. Why Wemby not in Summer League? No Wemby.
All right,
Wemby could be in Summer League. Yes.
I'm going to let Penn go, but Jonathan Mogbo is who I'm interested to see.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
Toronto Raptors.
This entire roster is crazy. Javon Freeman Liberty last year for the Windy City Bulls and then moved over to the Toronto Raptors. He lit it up in Summer League last year. Off-guard player, pretty good defender, really good guy to be around, good team. He's on a contract on a 2-way. He's got a guaranteed contract with the Raptors, but he's very, very much on the fringes of the roster. Grady Dick, again, same thing I said about Jett Howard. You need to really show that you don't belong at this level. He struggled last year. First half, second half was much better. Jonathan Mobo, 31st overall pick, best friend of Scotty Barnes. I'm looking forward. He's feeling all kinds of confident about it, but I'm really looking forward to this. This might be one of the best Summer League rosters we've ever had. That dude right there, Uri Shamshay, took a while to learn how to say his name. Holy crap. Like the rawest basketball player I think I've ever seen in my life. He put Bruno to shame in terms of how raw this guy is. Moving screens galore, but the upside, the fluidity, the way he tracks the ball, just watch him. If you just isolate the 1 minute of good basketball play that he has, he looks like a top 5 pick. If you take all the other parts of it, it looks really bad. Jamal Shed, y'all ever asked the question, y'all got that dog? This guy got the dog, right? This is a guy, like he is the winningest player in college basketball last year. And the year before, like last 4 years, he's the winningest player in college basketball. Straight up winner. Reminds me a lot of Fred VanVleet. Can't shoot that well in terms of high volume. He's a 31% shooter, but there's some hope on the horizon in terms of free throw shooting. Ochai Agbaji, former lottery pick for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I like Agbaji playing in the
I like him too. I had a lot of good feelings about him, but man, I got to tell you, last year with the Raptors, he struggled hard. Okay, like he is really a very good athlete, good point of attack defender, good rim protector for a guy who's 6'4.5", 6'5". Did not do much else. Does not generate offense very well. Does not read well out of the pick and roll. So I think that is it's one of the more interesting rosters that we've had in Raptors history, in my opinion.
All right, shout out the Raptors. Utah Jazz, we've already seen them play. We spoke on Keyonte George. We're going to see more of Cody Williams, more of Taylor Hendricks, more of Bryce Sensabaugh, and the other guys that they have over here. Kyle Filipowski.
Damn, it's a good team.
I haven't liked anything Cody Williams or Kyle Filipowski have done so far, but
and they got Walker Kessler too. Shout out Kenny
Lofton. They got like this is like the all-time, like this prospect was very talked about team. Yeah. Like all these prospects have been like on the bubble of being like the most popular prospects.
Oh, Darius Bazley.
Yeah.
Look at Darius
Bro, Kenny Lofton Jr.
Shout out Isaiah Collier. And last but not least, the Washington Wizards. Mars's man,
also
Johnny Davis.
Incredible team.
Johnny Davis. This is the year for Johnny Davis, man. I believed in him. He's gonna figure it out this year. I'm gonna be right about Johnny Davis, man. I thought getting him at 10 was a good pick. I'm standing on it. It's gonna work out. He going into year 3. He like 21, 22, maybe 23. We gonna figure it out, man. Johnny Davis. He competes, high energy. Everything else, whatever.
Marquise Noah will push him. Marquise Noah is going to push him. He's 5'6.5", but he's dog as well. So,
obviously they have the number 2 pick, Alex Sarr. So that's definitely the person that we're looking forward to the most on this team, and just seeing what he.
I'm looking forward to Bub Carrington way more.
I'm looking forward to Johnny Davis. First of all, don't speak first. I'm looking for Johnny Davis.
First of all, I don't think his parents are looking forward to him. First of all.
Yeah.
Wow. Pausing this Johnny.
Chill on my guy, Johnny Davis, man. We're gonna figure it out. Johnny I'm
gonna say watch him play Tristan Vukovic and Bub Carrington, bro. That's what's up.
Vukovic was doing some good things for them to close the season last year. It was
Bub.
Yeah, facts.
His father, Big Bub.
All right, fellas. You already know the drill. It's late in the show, and we got some super chats, so we're going to go ahead and take care of that. Before I do that, I do want to shout out playerschoicemerch.com one more time. You see the shirt that Chill got on. Go ahead and get you some championship rings because only winning matters. And that's that. Hit me with the super chat. Said, saw the KG video on Twitter of him dribbling and people were slobbering his jock. Those same people will call Giannis run and dunk while geeking on KG's grandma handles. Giannis, the most efficient pick and roll ball handler, less usage.
Cool.
Big Fan Breezy, y'all know the name, been a member for 12 months, said Derek Whitehead going to put up numbers, 15 to 18, 3 and 6 in the summer league. He's trying to make the Brooklyn Nets rotation next season. Salute, and I love the show.
Word.
I think he'll be in the rotation next year. I hope. They're not trying to win anyway. I hope so.
OBG Kenobi said, have you guys watched a Jay Mitchell? He's been
Mitchell.
good. AJ Mitchell?
On the Thunder. Yeah, I mean, I've been paying more attention to Dylan Jones and Usman Jang, but AJ Mitchell showed me something as like a, how would I call it? Like pull-up shooter. Like that ability. OKC of they're getting a lot of guys who can just do a little bit of everything. That's their MO. Everyone who could do a little bit of everything. AJ Mitchell, he's smaller, but he fits that mold of play on the ball, play off the ball, can initiate, all of those things. I like what he's saying. I like what I've seen. And also, anytime there's a lefty, it just looks cooler. So I like that too.
Haven't peeped AJ Mitchell, but I'll definitely keep an eye out on him. Alan L said KG better than Giannis and Tim Duncan. Dub.
No.
W.
Oh.
Kent Lipscomb Jr. said, let me up, Ron, so I could speak the real on Tim Duncan, aka top 5, really top 3.
I've never met anyone who is higher on Tim Duncan than me, but top 3 is higher than I am on him, which is crazy. But yeah, cool.
Richmond's NBA talk has been around for 5 months. He said, where does Hakeem rank in this?
He's next to Shaq for me. And that's where I'd be. He'd be 1 or 2. I don't know how I
Two.
feel. Depends on the day.
He's also next to Shaq for me, but that also means he's behind Jokic. What? Oops.
No.
I'm just pissing people off at this point. It's all right. It's all good. I'm gonna stand by Jokic. It's all good.
991 Smooth said Penn and Potato Bob replace DeMontis with Arvydas. How far are the Kings going next year? Penn, what do the Kings look like next year with Arvydas Sabonis? How far do they go?
Prime Arvydas Sabonis?
That's what we're talking about. The dude on the 88 Olympics. That dude.
All the way, baby. All the way. DeMar DeRozan and De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Huerter moving off screens and Arvydas Sabonis at 7'3" blocking shots, bro. You going all the way.
And
all the way.
And De'Aaron Fox.
And Keegan Murray.
And Keegan
Murray. Holy yes. Ox will be very, very happy to know that his Kings will win a championship with Arvydas Sabonis. There's a big gap between Arvydas and his son, and I think his son would be the first.
And it's not close, to be honest with you, Penn. It's not close.
It's not. And the crazy thing is, Domas is a really damn good player.
He's
he made
awesome.
All NBA. He's borderline All NBA, and his dad was better than him. So put some respect on that.
Like
People
this,
trolling me on that viral video.
He was way better than his son.
Deem the Dream 91 said at some point Embiid is responsible for production.
Like I said, if you want to factor in the playoff, not all of the playoff struggles are because he's hurt. Some of it is the process and speed. We spoke about that yesterday. It's not all on him being hurt. So, like I said, I'll put Embiid last on that list for the sake of that. I just think that bottom group, AD, Dirk, and Embiid, I think you can make an argument for any of them over the others. That's where I'm at with them. I think they're all close.
Drink More Water said, with Summer League about to start for every team, what are some skills or attributes you or these coaches look for that determine if players can play in the NBA? That Jared Dudley quote stuck out.
Like I was talking
That
about.
is a great quote.
Yeah.
That is a great quote. What did Jared Dudley say? He said there's going to be some 20-point per game scorers, 25-point per game scorers. They're not going to play in the league. There are going to be some 5 and 6-point per game scorers that will play in the league. We need guys who can guard multiple positions, who can do other things. Play. Every team has these 2 guys. We want to see if you can help those 2 guys. We don't need to see if you can replace those 2 guys. So that's what I'm saying. I think that this is great. I'm looking for body language. Me personally, I'm looking for body language. I'm looking for defense, positional versatility. How do you compete? How do you support your teammates? How do you communicate defensively? Are you the guy who gets everyone talking on defense? Are you a self-starter? Do you show up on time? These are the things I care about. And how comfortable are you accepting a 14th or 15th man role on the team? Are you going to be smiling on the bus, or are you going to be sour because you're not getting minutes? That's all I want from that guy. And are you working? Are you trying to get better? Is there potential? Because you might be 13, 14, 15 right now. I might make a trade in the midseason where I trade 4 guys for 1 guy. I might need you to step in. So I want to see if you have upside too.
Yeah.
World Peace said, where will prime Joe Johnson rank in today's game? And besides injury and defense, what's the difference between Joe Johnson's game and Kawhi's game?
What kind of bullshit question is that?
Yeah. That's what I was saying.
What?
Respect the super chat.
Besides defense.
Where would Joe Johnson rank in today's game? I don't know. Where's Zach LaVine?
Zach LaVine's probably a top 50 player in the game.
He's worse than him.
You think so?
I'm a Zach LaVine super fan, so why not?
I don't know. I think Joe Johnson's better than Zach LaVine.
You're here. You're here.
I so Joe is very underrated. I think he's very underrated. But yeah,
exactly. He's Kawhi without the defense.
Come on now.
That.
Hey, that's what he said. That's what he said.
Let's chill out on that. We ain't doing that.
We got to keep it pushing, y'all. But yes, he is indeed Kawhi. Shout out Joe Johnson.
Exactly.
Him named Slickback said, give my man Noah Clowney some respect too. Baby Miles Turner Lodi.
Noah Clowney.
Nets.
Mm-hmm.
Respect Steph said Chilltown had years taken off his life. With that Bronny top 5 take.
If Dion is right, he needs to run the meanest victory laps. If he's right, because hey, the way he catches the ball, I'm just saying.
Next month,
you can't teach
the ball.
I like Bronny James, bro.
Not swing through Mars, not any of that stuff. The way he catches the peel.
Hey, we gotta appreciate genius when it's in front of us. The way he catches that ball, man.
My God.
Do you guys know, like, aside from that though, if Bronny just goes on like I don't even want to say Linsanity run because Linsanity was going crazy, but let's say he goes on a run where he's averaging 10 to 13 points. They're gonna hype that up like Bronny's averaging 30 points.
Can we just start at 5?
If Bronny averages 13 as a 55th pick,
who ain't taking that?
I'm hyping that.
I'm loving that. Loving that.
Aaron Wiggins is the last 55th pick. I remember getting.
He's the type of player that people never ever give credit to. He's a very connected playmaker. He's a very good, in my opinion, point of attack defender. He's going to be a role player. I think he can go an entire 2 years without ever cracking 20 points and still be fine. As long as people set the expectations right, it won't be a problem. It's when people start saying crazy stuff like he's supposed to be rookie of the year in top 5 that people start going crazy on the other end and start attacking a very well-meaning, very good young man who's just playing fucking hoops. Okay? It's just crazy to me.
But imagine he is the rookie of the year.
He's not.
Mad Max Sports Talk said, would Josh Smith be a top 10 defender today?
No.
There you have it. 9-1 Smooth said, penalizing Shaq for only 3-peating is wild. LOL. Go.
Did we do that?
No, we did not.
We didn't do that.
No, we did not.
Sim West 34 said, did we forget Giannis? Did we forget Giannis his 30, 12, 7? Did we forget Giannis had his 30, 12, 7 on 61%? Because playoffs?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't play in the postseason.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind, man. That happens.
That was the whole point of the question. You're not providing any value in the playoffs if you don't play in the playoffs. It's the similar thing with Kawhi in his career. That's why I asked. It was a big part of the whole discussion. But yeah.
Jose Primo said, AD just cook Giannis with role players. Alfred Griffin said, Wilt and Kareem. Last but not least, Mitsu said, Dubron, generational host and the engine of PC. Appreciate you, Mitsu.
You saved that for last. I appreciate it.
I'm like
great timing.
Of generational host. I'm like the
garbage.
I'll think and then I'll get back to you.
You don't have to think on it. Trash, garbage.
Okay,
garbage.
Hey, being the worst of generational, that's
garbage. You're the worst
Appreciate
of the
you,
generation.
Mitsu.
How about that?
That's insane, chill.
The worst of the gen. That's what you are.
I got a few members. I'm gonna just shout these guys out, and then we're gonna get out of here. King AD became a member today. B Dia 21 became a member. Sim West 34 became a member. Gabe Giampalo.
Yes.
Gabe Giampalo became a member, and Nabby Ling became a member too. Shout out Ling. Appreciate everybody for joining. Appreciate all the members. Shout out all our Hall of Fame members. Like the video on your way out, and y'all have a good weekend. Oh, an open gym is next.
Later.
See you Monday.
Out.
Merry Christmas.